Thank you very much for staying with us. This is your election headquarters, and the governing NPP is electing members of parliament for constituencies with sitting members of parliament, and already some big names are falling. And this afternoon, we'll be sharing with you the results of all these constituencies. 165 constituencies where the governing NPP is having parliamentary primaries held. We'll be going to Bantama in the Ashanti region. We'll be sharing those results with you. And as you can see on your screen, for those of you watching us on television, the incumbent member of parliament, Daniel Ochimabwaji, had 122 votes as against Francis Asensibuachi, deputy chief of staff, polling 456 votes. What it means is that the government spokesperson on finance will not be going to parliament, at least not on the ticket of the governing NPP come 2021. And of course, in the Adentan constituency, incumbent member of parliament, that's Yao Bwabia Samoa, fought competition and actually won convincingly. He seeks to make history as the first member of parliament in the Adentan constituency to retain his seat. He polled 422 votes, and his closest contender, that's Emmanuel Kwesimante, polling 217. The only female in the contest, that's Frida Ajiman Sapon, polling 7 votes. Of course, we're going around the country and we're bringing you all the results, everything that you need to know about the NPP's parliamentary primaries. Will go to Yendi because the son of former Vice President Alhaji Aliu Mahama, that's Umar Farouk Aliu Mahama, has also emerged victorious in Yendi. We'll be sharing, the results with you shortly. We'll also be getting to Fantiakwa South. We'll go to Mensia North, where the current member of parliament, that's Collins Owusu-Amankwa, is actually lost. The man who believed that he was going to win convincingly, the man who said that, well, he was going to beat this contestant, and so he will be allowed to go next time, polled 273 votes compared to Akwesi Kumedu's 280 votes. So there you have it. It's obvious that he's not going to go to parliament, at least not on the ticket of the governing NPP. And so the current vice chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament and member of Parliament for the Mensia North constituency in the Ashanti region will not be making it to Parliament. But of course, there's also surprises in the Ladade Kotopon constituency, because incumbent member of Parliament and former Deputy Minister of Communication, Vincent Odote Soa, Obama they call him, unfortunately has lost. And he polled 376 compared to Gerald Tetenyanyufi, who had 543, with Comfort Note polling 46 votes. But of course, we also would have to go to the Akwetia constituency in the Eastern region, because in the Akwetia constituency, Amase, as she's popularly known, would not be coming to Parliament on the ticket of the governing NPP. Now, she polled 223 votes, and then Bernard Oredudonko 77, but Ernest Kumi polls 227 votes to emerge victorious. And we'll also be taking you to the Fantiakwa South constituency. Interesting results in that particular constituency. That's the Fantiakwa South constituency also in the Eastern region, because in that particular contest, now the incumbent member of parliament, that's Honorable Kofi Ejekum, polled 232 votes. His main contender, Daniel Dankwa, polling 103, and Eric Amwakutum polling 43. What it means is that for that incumbent member of parliament, Honorable Ejekum, he gets to represent the New Patriotic Party for the people of Fantiakwa South in the 2020 general elections. Thank you very much for staying with us. This is your election headquarters, and my name is Winston, and we are glad that you've chosen to stay with us right from morning up until now. For those of you listening to us on the radio, this is Joy 99.7 FM, Love FM 99.5 in Kumasi, and a dozen of affiliates across the country. Stay with us because this is where we'd ensure that you get to know everything concerning the NPP's parliamentary primaries. Because in the Nsawam Edwedri constituency, for instance, incumbent Member of Parliament Frank Anodompe polled 483 votes to beat David Edututu, who polled 163, and Efuachewa Nyantechi also polling 4 votes. So what it means is that for the third time, Frank Anodompe would be representing the people of Nsawam Edwedri on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. The delegates, of course, would decide, whether he gets to win the elections. Of course, we're going to continue giving you all the results. I'll be sharing with you results also from the Western region, because in the Western region, and I'll be getting you the results shortly, but the incumbent Member of Parliament for the Shama constituency, Atto Panford, has been unsuccessful in seeking re-election. In effect, he becomes a one-term Member of Parliament because he's been unseated in the primaries by long-term competitor, that's lawyer Erickson Abeka. We'll also go to the Mpoho constituency, because in the Mpoho constituency, John Sani is beaten incumbent Member of Parliament and the chairman of the Youth and Sports Committee in Parliament, Alex Kofi Ejekum. But let's see how Adjoa Safo was declared winner at the Domi Kwabenya constituency.
Honorable Adjoa Safo pulled 26. Hacho. Mr. Michael pulled 40. Honorable Adjoa pulled 58.
All right, so that's how incumbent Member of Parliament in the Domi Kwabenya constituency, Adjoa Safo, was declared victorious after she beat competition from Ghana's High Commissioner to India, that's Michael Kwe Jr., who for the second time has been unsuccessful. But some persons who have been successful, for instance, is the Minister in charge of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, that's Elizabeth Afole Kwe. She pulled 362 votes to beat Emmanuel Laye Odai, who polled 359. And so the incumbent, winning by some 3 votes. But let's watch the La Dade Kotopon declaration, because Gerald Nyanyofio is beaten Vincent Odoteso to it.
Of the poll and counting, these are the results. Vincent Sowa Odotai pulled 376. Joseph Gerald Tete Nyanyofio also had 543. Comfort Ade Kote pulled 46. With these results, I have the pleasure, on behalf of the Commission, to declare Joseph Gerald Tete Nyanyofio as the parliamentary candidate-elect for the Dade Kotopon constituency.
The Commission has just declared Joseph Tete Gerald Nyanyofio as the parliamentary aspirant or parliamentary candidate for the NPP here at the La Dade Kotopon constituency. I spoke to him earlier. He said he was in high spirits. His expectations were high. Now he has been declared winner. Let me just get his word from him. Congratulations. Thank you. When I spoke to you earlier, you said you were the leading candidate. You were confident that the people will give you the mandates. You're excited, are you not?
Yeah, I'm very much excited. said that the people have spoken, the delegates have spoken loudly, and I'm going to respect their mandate and give them the benefits and all the fruits that politics and leadership can bring.
How are you able to pull this off? What was the magic?
Well, like I mentioned, I've lived in the constituency all my life. I have rocked and rolled with them. I understand them. I really connect with them at a very deep level. So I understood their problems and I related to them in the same measure. I came up with a powerful message of youth empowerment and they bought into it. And today, they have voted massively for change for better. And so, I'm not surprised at all. And going forward, I'm going to work closely with them to ensure that their confidence in me is not undermined in any way.
What happens to Vincent Soa Odote?
I've maintained that he has been a senior brother. I'll continue to engage him so that we can forge ahead as one united people.
Are you ready to face off the NDC's candidates?
From now, we are going to hit the ground and touch the base with the same message of hope for the constituents, and I'm sure on the basis of that, I will be able to connect deeply with them and they will give us yet another mandate to lead them in the next 4 years.
Just heard the parliamentary candidates for the NPP here in the Dade Kotopong constituency. Joseph Gerald Nyanyofio Tete. Now he has beaten the incumbent Vincent Soa Odote by quite a margin. And from what you heard him say, the young people have reposed their confidence in him, and he's going to work to ensure that he repays the confidence that the people have reposed in him by giving him this overwhelming and resounding victory at the parliamentary primaries.
All right, so that's the declaration of results in the Dade Kotopong constituency, where lecturer at the University of Professional Studies in Accra, Gerald Tete Nyanyofio, beating incumbent member of parliament in that constituency. That's Vincent Odote Soa to 8. But of course, in the Sunyani East constituency, incumbent member of parliament, Kwesi Myjoyonline, was also the majority chief whip in parliament, won. And he beat Alfred Tuah-Yeboah. Kwesi Myjoyonline pulled 605 votes to Alfred Tuah-Yeboah's 246 votes. And so he, would be contesting the next parliamentary elections on the ticket of the governing NPP in the Shamar constituency. Current member of parliament, incumbent member of parliament, that's Atto Panford. He's lost to Samuel Erickson Abeka. Atto Panford polling 209, votes to Samuel Erickson Abeka's 263 votes. So what it means is that Samuel Erickson Abeka, after several tries, gets a shot at Parliament by representing the NPP in the Shamar constituency. He's contested Angelina Bading Emisa. He also, contested Atto Panford, and finally becomes successful because he will be representing the NPP in that particular constituency. But let's also get to, let's come back to Accra. Let's get to the Ablekuma North constituency, where the incumbent Nana Ekwe-Efriye has also lost that particular election. She's lost to Sheila Battels. I'm sure that name would ring a bell. Kwame Battels used to be member of parliament for that particular constituency. Sheila Battels pulls 518 to beat incumbent member of parliament. That's Nana Ekwe-Efriye, who pulled 315. And then Kojubewa 88, John Agbote 20. We'll get to declaration shortly, but in the Ekwe South constituency, incumbent member of parliament and deputy minister in charge of local government and rural development, Obi Amwa, once again, would be on the ballot come 2020 as a representative of the governing NPP, because he pulled 266 votes compared to Eric Samuel Anomensen's 74, and the closest person pulling 93, that is Kwame Ofori Jewu in there. So Obi Amwa, for the fourth time, would be representing the people of Ekwe South on the ticket of the NPP. And if you look at the fact that these are normally safe seats, unless the unexpected happens, looks like he certainly would be in Parliament. But there's another shocker because, if you go to Doma East, then in Doma East, the incumbent member of Parliament, who's also the Deputy Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation, William Kwesi Sebi, will not be returning to Parliament on the ticket of the NPP. He polled 153 votes to Paul Chumberime's 225 votes. What it means is that for now, if he wants to go to Parliament, maybe he should be trying as an independent candidate. And let's take you to the Western North constituency because Regional Minister Kingsley Abuajijedu, who is Member of Parliament for the Bebiani Ariaso Bekwai constituency, has lost. And he's lost to former CEO of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company. That's boss Alfred Obing Boateng. Alfred Obing polling 580 votes to Kingsley Abuajijedu's 188 votes. And that's in the Western North region. But if I were to take you to the Suhum constituency in the Eastern region, long-time member of Parliament, fourth-time member of Parliament, Frederick Opare-Ansah, will not be going back to Parliament on the ticket of the NPP because he's been beaten by Kojo Asante, who polled 394 votes to Frederick Opare-Ansah's 272 votes. He's been a member of Parliament since he won the elections in 2004 and was sworn in 2005, making it, four-term member of Parliament. In the Achim Oda constituency, that's another interesting one, because that's where you have, the incumbent, William Kwetu, former Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture. He came to Parliament in 2012, having lost the primaries originally after the split of the constituency. He represented the people of Achim Oda and was elected to Parliament. But he's been defeated by Alexander Akwesi Akwa. Alexander Akwesi Akwa polling 215 votes to William Ejapong Kwetu's 170 votes. The other contestant, Richmond Asante Bediako, polling 2 in that particular election. So lots of results coming in. We'll also be getting to the Ahanta West constituency, because if you go to the Ahanta West constituency, the incumbent member of Parliament for that constituency, that is Kujokum, he's actually, beating competition from Kwesi Bani. I'll be sharing the results with you shortly, but let's go for the declaration of the results in the Adenton constituency. When we come back, we'll share those results with you. Okay, so that's it in the Ahanta West constituency. Emmanuel Kujokum polling 472 votes to beat Kwesi Bani. Kwesi Bani polling 249 votes. So that's the situation in the Ahanta West constituency. Kujokum polling 472, and then Kwesi Bani polling 249. What that means is that for the second time, Emmanuel Kujokum, a legal practitioner, a lawyer, has beaten Kwesi Bani, former DCE, in the Ahanta West constituency to it. The two contested in 2015 with Kujokum emerging victors. But let's get to the Ashanti region. Homiteria is there. Lots of results coming in from the Ashanti region. And he's joined us to be telling us, what those results are. Ohime, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. So tell us the results that you have and which constituencies they are from. So, Ohime, can you tell us the results that you have and the constituency you're in?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ohime, we can hear you. So if you can hear me also, then share with us the results that you have.
Okay, thank you. I have the results for Asofore Efidiase, where the incumbent MP, Dr. Ayu Efuye, was being contested by Kwame Adom Apia. At the end of the polls, the Electoral Commission, these are certified results. Dr. Ayu Efuye, the incumbent MP, polled 322 representing 83% of the vote cast, whilst Dr. Kwame Adom Apia also opposed 68. And so Dr. Ayu Afriye, the incumbent MP, has retained his position to represent the party in the Fidiase Asokore constituency. In the Kumau constituency, it was the battle between four gentlemen, Robert Ahomka Elinse, the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. He polled 52 votes against Dr. Yao Banos Siste. Edward Kofi Osei also polled 73 votes, whilst the incumbent MP, Philip Basua, polled 184 votes. So Philip Basua, the incumbent MP, duly elected to represent the Kumewu constituency. We are currently in the Ijaben constituency, where the incumbent member of parliament, Abdullah Epoma, is slouching it out with Alexander Opoku.
Okay, so I think that we have some challenges with connectivity of him interior there. We certainly would get back to him. I would want to know what those results are in the Jabin constituency. Lots of the results coming in would be going, to Yendi as well, but I think Ohime is back now, so let's get to him. Yes, Ohime.
For now, we are waiting for the Electoral Commission to announce the results for Jabin constituency, where the incumbent MP, Ama Kumar Boateng, is facing it out with Alexander Opoku, a mining consultant. If you recall, a few days ago before the elections, some supporters of this constituency were in the stream at Nobuam to invoke cases on anybody who want to rig the elections or take part in activities that will ensure their preferred candidate, the mining consultant, Alexander Opoku, is suspended and also not allowed to take part in today's elections. So a few minutes from now, the Electoral Commission, I'm told, will declare the results. But I must say it's a charged atmosphere as hundreds of supporters have gathered here waiting for the Electoral Commission to declare the winning candidate. Even before then, there has been jubilation from the camp of the MP. Her supporters think that she has carried the day, though the EC is yet to announce the results.
Right, thank you very much, Ohime Teria, for joining us, giving us, results from Asokore Fidiase, where the incumbent member of parliament, that's Dr. Uefriye, polling 322 votes. Now, that was a two-horse race. What it means is that, lawyer Apia polled 68 votes. And so he's lost in, his bid to represent the governing NPP to parliament. We're still waiting for the results in the Jabin constituency. But as we're told, the supporters of the incumbent are currently jubilating. Now, they believe that they've actually won that particular election. Let me also share with you figures from the Abra Asebu Kwaman Kese constituency, because the incumbent member of parliament, that's Elvis Morris Donkor, he polled 468 votes to beat Mr. Nyante, who polled 207 votes. What it means is that the incumbent gets to face Felix Kwakye Ofosu in the 2020 parliamentary elections. I'm sure that's one of the what will be a lookout for constituency ahead of the 2020 elections. But later on, we'll be doing these pairings, because once the NPP has elected its members of parliament, then what it means is that we can actually do the pairings and know who's going to be contesting against who and in which constituency and what the chances are supposed to be. Mind you, these are constituencies that the NPP has sitting members of parliament, but not all of them are actually safe seats. There are some that are swing seats, and so even though you find yourself in there, it's not an indication that you've won the election, and thus we'll be finding your way to parliament. Now, this is your election headquarters, and we're still bringing you live coverage of the NPP's parliamentary primaries. There's been elections in 165 constituencies. 165 constituencies have had elections, but I've been joined in studio by Dr. Nansata Yakubu. She's a political analyst and a democracy engineer. I learned that term from her. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
And great to see you. Hope you're doing very well.
I'm doing very well.
Great. So tell us briefly, what's your assessment of the general process? I mean, the whole process has been right from it started till the results started trickling in before we get to look at some few constituencies, even as we get results from the other constituencies.
Yeah, to start off, I think the organization of the elections is what was key for a lot of people, considering that we are in times where you can't just walk up to a polling booth or whatever and vote. You need to go through certain processes. You have to wear a mask, you need to wash your hands, sanitize. There can't be queues more than 25 voting in the place at a time. They had to do holding centers and stuff like that. So from the morning, in some polling stations, things were going on quite smoothly. In other polling stations, not so much, because they were challenged with the supplies for the protocols to be able to work. But then you realize a different dynamic. Immediately, the results started being collated. The excitement kind of made people throw some of, I would say, caution to the wind and just, bust out jubilate because it's spontaneous. And that is very symptomatic of what is done in the usual election time. It was interesting to see, people shouting through their mask, but then you would find other people also not wearing their mask. So in terms of the organization, I think there would be a lot of lessons to learn if the situation doesn't change and we have to go to the national ballot in the same dispensation, then we'll have to do a lot of work. But we know that immediately results start coming. Everybody's excited. People, will throw caution to the wind and touch people and all that. So maybe we wouldn't say that was to be expected, but we just felt that people should have been a bit more restrained. But it's easier said than done. Maybe if we were also there out of excitement or anger or whatever emotion that held people, we would have done same. But I must say from the morning, it was well laid out. Having said that, we can also see that immediately the results started coming in, if anybody thought that this would be logical, then you were wrong. The results that are coming in have given us several patterns of how the delegates felt the constituency results should go. There were constituencies that people felt should have been given the kind of unopposed status that some MPs have been given. That were not. So people kind of started thinking, okay, well, in that case, the party is throwing you sort of to the wolves to see how you can perform. I think a case in point is Dobe Kwabenya. It's one of the constituencies that people felt. One, you have a young woman who is done twice, who is in the leadership of parliament. And so if other people were giving unopposed status for some of the reasons that we know she also qualifies for, why wasn't she given that? But then people also forget that competition is also strategy. Being able to compete in itself is a strategy for your own political future and political career in the political party and at the national level. So there are different patterns that are coming out. You have seen MPs who are fourth term being taken out for a first term contenders. You have seen people who have contested with sitting MPs for several rounds, taking them out now. You have seen those who haven't gone at all, coming in. So it's been a mixture of different patterns. So it defies any kind of logical conclusions that anybody would have drawn, ahead of the contest and thinking the results will go this way or that way for particular MPs. It's not coming out like that, as we can see from the results.
Okay, so you can actually realize that in some constituencies, for instance, if you go to Akemodan constituency, where the incumbent, he was seeking a third term. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't make it because he's been unseated by Alexander Kwesi Akwa. Even in the Krowa constituency, that was a close contest, but just look at the Achim Odan constituency. The incumbent polling 170, and then you have his competitor polling 215, and another person polling 2. When I spoke to Alexander Kwesi Akwa here on upfront, on Thursday, he said he was going to win about 300 votes. That didn't happen, but at least what that means is that he gets to go to Parliament. I'll get your thoughts on this, but if you go to the Krowa constituency, that was a tight race, and you have the incumbent member of Parliament polling 362. That's Elizabeth Afolikwe polling 362. And then, Emmanuel Lai Okai polling 359. Dr. Nonsata, I'd like your take on this, you know, because this is our fisheries minister.
Yes.
She pulls 362.
Yeah.
And the next person, the closest person, pulling 359.
Okay, so you would see that there are three contenders, but it's evident her main challenger was the one who pulled 359.
Yeah.
You can see that. Now, what this means is that this was a keen contest, and the delegates were divided along the lines of who they really wanted to go back to Parliament. It's possible that when you become a minister, and a lot of the MPs who are also ministers will tell you that when you become a minister, your social capital with your constituents can sometimes be limited. And sometimes it gives them ideas that you are doing more at the national level than you are doing at the constituency level. But when a push comes to crunch, at the time that you should cross the line, they get on board and see what you have done for them in the constituency. It could also be that the campaign strategy that she used, you know, was in a way that made her challengers feel that they are going to be able to topple her. But on the day, she was able to pass the vote. Now, Winston, you have to remember that one vote is one too many. One. Immediately the person passes you with one, the person has won. And you can see Dormi Kwabenya. I mean, you see how interesting the results are. And we are going to have those kind of results representing other constituencies. The lesson here is the principle of first past the vote. If your votes are more than me by one, you have won. It could be her strategy that has been able to make her cross the line at the end. But it doesn't mean that they didn't think that her challenger wasn't a best second. He was also able to have been able to represent the constituency. But that is where competition and strategy comes into play. And it is left with the delegates to choose who best represents them. If they think the two people best represent them, but then she passes with a few more votes, she is the one who gets the ballot. That's how it works. It's competition.
Well, that's interesting. That's how it works. But you see, also because this is a constituency which in the past swings.
Yes.
So in 2000, you know, then Member of Parliament, that's Joshua Alabi,
yes.
He lost the seat to the NPP's candidate. In 2008, you know, the NPP also lost the seat. At the time, Ayiko Otu contested, he lost
exactly
to Dr. Oklekuma. Yes, and he contested again in 2012, lost to Oklekuma again. Yeah. But then in 2016, after the demise of Oklekuma, then Afolekwe comes in and she wins. If it happens like this in her constituency, doesn't that look like a divided front? How can she amend it before the general elections?
Okay, Winston, so this is what happened with Krowo and Lojokuku. Those twin constituencies have had this kind of trend for a while. Next door in Lojokuku, this time around, their candidate, Dr. Koboy, is unopposed. But they have a similar history. Apart from Ni Okaija Adamafiu, I think, who was able to do 2 terms in that particular constituency, every time somebody else that I think in the very beginning is the same thing. It changes from one party to the other. So what works is this. If the party retains the member of parliament in their constituency, you have to then watch for how that translates at the national ballot. That is the trend in that constituency, but not necessarily who wins the primaries. You can repeat your candidate, but as to whether the national ballot, the candidate will get it for the party, that is where the problem usually is with that particular constituency. So in this case, the delegates feel strongly that by retaining her, she might win the national ballot for them rather than sending in a new candidate. So that could be what informed the decision to retain her.
Great. So let's get onto the phone lines now because Richard Kojonyako is in the central region. He's in Cape Coast, actually. He'll be telling us about results from the Cape Coast North constituency. Richard Kojonyako, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Share with us what the results are from the Cape Coast North constituency.
So 3 people or 4 people were up in this contest. The incumbent MP, Barbara Ashaisi, Member of Parliament for Cape Coast North, and then 3 other people. But at the end of the day, Barbara Ashaisi won with 199 votes. The closest contender, Loris Ampa, who was set to really battle it out with the incumbent MP, also secured 150. And so that was what really transpired in the Cape Coast North constituency. Barbara Ashaisi is promising to unite all the the other camps that were against her, and then she is promising that the battle ahead is very tough, and she says that she's going to pick the seat again in the Cape Coast North constituency in the December poll.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
But in the central region again, we have the Abra Asebu Kwamankase, the incumbent, Elvis Maurice Donko also retaining the seat in the Fantaman constituency. The incumbent Kokwansa Hayford also retained the seat. At the Chifu Etimokwa constituency, the incumbent lost. Abraham Jumaodum lost to one Jamina. And so that is what is happening in the constituency. In the Upper Denchua West constituency, the incumbent and Sowajan also retained the candidature for the party.
Richard, if you have the figures, for instance, for Chifu Atimokwa, can you share them with us?
Okay, so the figures for Chifu Atimokwa, we have Abraham Jumaodum, who is the incumbent, a member of parliament. He secured, let me check the figures very well. He got 119 votes. That's against the one who won, Jamina, who got 206. And then the professor who also from the University of Education, Winneba, he secured 180 votes. So the figures again, Abraham Jumaodum, the incumbent, had 119 votes. Jamina got 206, so he eventually won. And then the professor from the University of Education, Winneba, had 180 votes.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard Kodonyako, for those figures. We'll look up to more of them. Thank you very much. So that's another sitting member of parliament, bowing out. More or less, he doesn't become, he doesn't succeed in his bid to want to go to parliament again because he's lost. That's Abraham Odum of the Chifu Atimokwa constituency. And but of course, in Kumewu, Homkalinse was unsuccessful. I shared with you the figures. He wanted to unseat the incumbent member of parliament, Honorable Basoa, but in trying to do so, he could not succeed, and so he will probably have to wait and another time give it a shot. He polled 52 votes. That's Roberta Homkalinse, Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, polling 62 votes. Dr. Bano had 60 votes, and then if you get to lawyer Edward Kofiosa, 73, and the incumbent member of parliament polling 184, but he doesn't get 50%. So you're looking at 60 plus 52, that's 1111 plus this, so that's about 50%. He had 50% exactly. So this could have been a tie if the others had stepped down for him. That's in the that's in the
when there are more people competing, of course, then the numbers. But if it was just a two-horse race, maybe we would have seen more interesting numbers. But who is to say that his strategy didn't work? Because at this stage, that's all that it came down to. How you interact with your delegates, how you sold your message to the delegates, and how convinced the delegates are that you are the best candidate for the job. I think that's what it comes down to at this point. You have to take it one step at a time. You don't have to start seeing yourself in parliament if you haven't gone through the primaries. So that's what is really happening.
Well, take it one step at a time. It would actually have been 185 in there, but some more results are coming in, and we'll be sharing all those results with you shortly, because we're told that in the Nkoko constituency, interesting results from the Nkoko constituency, because Eric Kwache Dafo, that's the incumbent member of parliament, and also the Eastern Regional Minister, he polled 159 votes. Joyce Opoku Boateng polled 82 votes. David Asante of Let My Vote Count fame, 73. Seth Ejeba, who's a former member of parliament, Shaba they call him, 156. Honorable, Kwabena Edusel Ketre, also a former member of parliament, polled 28. And Joseph Frimpong polled 206. So Joseph Frimpong would be contesting on the NPP's ticket in the Nkoko constituency. Surprising results. The incumbent member of parliament, per some research that was done, was tipped, soon to be a three-man race or a three-person race. That's the incumbent member of parliament, David Asante, and that's Joyce Opoku-Boateng. Unfortunately for him, Eric Kwachidafo, who entered parliament in 2013 on the ticket of the NPP.
And lost.
He's lost now.
And lost,
He's lost it.
So this is one of it reflects on what you were just talking about the number of, so this is 6 people contesting that particular seat. And within that dynamics, you have those that have gone before, those that have been contesting. Shaba has contested quite a couple of
contesting as an independent
come back into the fold. Then you have those that are contesting for the first time, those that are so you have a lot of dynamics at play within that range. And so if you are a 6-person race, it's all for everybody. You don't think that I'm an incumbent, so I'm going to be able to just swing my way through. Sometimes even being an incumbent can actually disadvantage you, because if people already have some issues and are peeved about some issue, if you don't resolve them going into the primaries, they are going to be used, in a way that will not bring it to bear. So that is why sometimes there's a lot of consensus within the internal party ranks on how many people should even be allowed to stand for that particular seat, for instance. So if there are 3 people, it makes it a much tighter contest, but it's very reflective of how people might think the results will go. So going on research can say one thing, but on the day, the results will say another thing. As I told you, it defies logic. Until the votes are counted, you can't start saying that I have won. And that is exactly what has happened. You research, sometimes doing that is just a way to also intimidate your opponents to thinking that I'm already ahead. It's also a psychological, contest for people to think if research on the ground is saying he's stepped to win, that means that, we are not in the game anymore. But at the same time, what it also does to your opponent is if research says he's going to win, what has the research said that we are not doing that is making us lose? Then we go and do that. So on the day when the delegates vote and they count the results, then you are found wanting.
Okay, so let's speak to some of the persons who were unsuccessful, some persons who have actually lost in their re-election bid, and one of those is Dr. Marcus Ibeyebwa, who is the chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament. He was seeking to go to Parliament for the 3rd time, representing the people of New Drabing South, but he's been defeated by the CEO, the Executive Secretary of the Free Zones Authority. That's Michael Berfi. Dr. Ibeyebwa polling 200 votes to Michael Berfi's 372. He's joined us now. Dr. Marcus Ibeyebwa, thank you very much for joining us, and better luck next time.
Yes, I think the better candidate won.
What do you think worked against you?
Well, you either quit or you are defeated. Okay, you will not be MP forever. Okay, so either you decide not to run again, or if you continue in this business, someday somebody's going to take you out.
And so you've spoken to Michael Berfi?
No, I haven't been able to reach him as yet. I'm on my way back to Accra, so I'm sure when that settles, I'll speak to him.
Would you be speaking to him anytime soon to congratulate him?
Absolutely.
And you're willing to work with him to ensure that your party wins that seat again?
I beat him 4 years ago. He worked with me. Why wouldn't I want to work with him this time around if he's won?
Okay, so you talked about the better candidate winning. Finally on this, you talked about the better candidate winning. And you've also talked about the fact that if you're going into an election, it's either you win or lose. But you certainly would have thought that the strategy you put in place would have worked for you, right?
We've worked so hard. We campaigned hard in the last 8 years that I've been MP. My work in Parliament, my work in the Constituency, my work with the polling station executives, it speaks for itself. But I'm sure they wanted a change. They wanted something more refreshing. And so I challenged an incumbent 8 years ago. I beat her. Last 4 years, Mr. Michael Berfi came, I beat him. And so they've tried me, and this time around they think they need to change direction. And so we are all rallying behind him and giving him the full support. You know, elections are in just under 6 months.
All right, since you're on your way to Accra, we wish you traveling mercies and all the best in your future endeavors, Dr. Marcus Ibeyabua.
Thank you, too.
Well, so that's Dr. Marcus Ibeyabua. He says the better candidate won. And he says you can't be MP forever. It's either you go or someone is going to get you out. Go.
Yeah, if you notice, the Eastern region is particularly a region that everybody also looks at because, I mean, as we would have it, that's the region that the president, you know, himself represented a constituency from, and it's also his home region. And we had a lot of issues. You remember when the virus hit and they still had to register for Ghana card. There were a lot of conspiracy theories, you know, being thrown around. So the Eastern region has always been there. And also they disqualified quite a lot of candidates. I think up to 15 from different constituencies who sought to. And there were accusations about, they told me I could come and I was put off and all that. So that was, but if you follow New Job himself, Dr. Befi's contest, it was quite a keen one because 4 years ago, Ochubefi contested him for that same position and lost in the primaries. Yeah. And, you know, worked with him for the national vote, and then they retained the seat. This time, Befi comes back with the lessons as to why he lost the last time and contests him and wins. If you see the way the campaign was going, I listened to some of the interviews with people, and whereas he was saying that Koforidua, for instance, which is the regional capital, has had a good, you know, infrastructure development, schools and things, and Befi's campaign was saying that Koforidua needs a facelift. So you understand? So whilst he is saying Koforidua, it's attained this kind of status, Befi's campaign said no. Koforidua needs a facelift, and we think we need a younger person who understands arts, and we are looking for jobs, and we want jobs that will be retained in Koforidua and contribute to the national business community. So their campaign strategies were quite, you know, different. Okay. So in the end, Befi picked him to it, and it's good to hear him concede and say, I'm willing to work with him, and that's the spirit of competition. That's what we need to see coming from all these other candidates who are contesting. Certainly,
but one other person who will not be making a return to Parliament is the Member of Parliament for Wa East. That's Godfred Tang Bayon. When in Rafiq Salam's report, he described him as the village musician who's become a Member of Parliament. He polled 182 votes, and the one who beat him polled, that's Salifu Yakubu, polling 214 votes. Adams Adama, 140, and Adams Badung Nasruddin, polling 16 votes. Honorable Godfred Tang Bayon, former MC for WA, would in 2021 become a former Member of Parliament for WA East. He lost in the 2012 elections, staged a comeback and became successful. But also, the results from Navrongo Central, where Aviation Minister, that is Joseph Kofi Ada, has lost. And he's lost to Tangoba Abayage, who polled 307 to Kofi Ada's 266. So that's just by way of some results that have come in. And in Ajiso also we are told that John Kuma polled 397 to Kwabena Uswe Duomi's 307, and Abna Pokia polling 5. The incumbent Member of Parliament, who in 2008 unseated then Member of Parliament for Joso Jabin, Akwesi Oseje, who was then Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister, will not be making it to Parliament again. So you see, we are getting the trend that we're talking about. So start off, first off, Wa East. Okay, interestingly, that's my home constituency. I come from Wa East. So Wa East is a very interesting constituency in the region because that was the first region in which the NPP ever got a seat in the Upper West region. Yes. So Tangu is like a trailblazer, so to speak, for NPP in the region. And he's had a very acrimonious campaign for the past 4 years. There were issues about his health
that became political. There were issues about his own personal life and all that. But he's always seen as a political strategist that is just impossible to unseat. So this gentleman who is unseat him is a very young man who's a quantity surveyor and infrastructure planner who has also contested Tangu before. This is not his first attempt at getting it. Salfi Yaku, he's contested him before. And even this time around, I'm thinking people were not too sure that he would be able to unseat him, because the other candidates that came on were quite strong. Adama and Nasuri, as you rightly said. Because he is soft-spoken, he's more reflective. But what he probably did was he worked more with the delegates to really listen to what they want for the constituency. And you would also know that geographically, the constituency straddles, from just the beginning of Wa into the Sisala area. So you have linguistic issues, you have people speaking differently, because the Wa West constituency was also carved out of Wa East. Wa East was one of the big constituencies. They carved out Wa West and another constituency even out of it. So what was left was, having to unite the people. And I think that is what the people think Salifu would be able to do. Now, Navrongo, I think his competition is the minister for Upper East Region.
Upper East Region. Yes.
Now, the thing is that if you look at Navrongo Central, it's always been a very hot, city. Other contested the other regional minister as well. Makwoyongo, you remember years before. So that seat has been a seat that
he lost to Makwoyongo in the main election and beat him in another election.
Thank you. So it's a constituency that Ada has always battled, to get through. So I'm sure he thinks that if he lost this time, he'll just wait his turn and come back. It happens. Or the constituency feels that this time we need to move beyond and give somebody else, an opportunity. It's a very interesting constituency, Navrongo Central.
Well, I think the challenge here would be, whether or not Ada can stage a comeback. He's growing now. He came to Parliament after the death of John Achuliwo in 2002. So, his through that by-election, he wins in 2004. He wins again in 2008. Loses to Makwoyongo in the main election in 2012. Tries everything practically possible. Makes a comeback in 2016. Becomes a minister. And then he loses.
He loses again.
He loses again. I'm sure this might just be, the end for him.
But no, we need to listen to what he has to say. We probably would give you a different. You need to listen to what his plans are and whether he thinks he'll hang up his boots this time or he'll go back and read. But in any case, him being the incumbent and having been, in that constituency for so long, he'll be a good resource, for them to leverage going into the main election. So it'll be interesting to see what they both have to say.
It certainly will be interesting, and talking about areas where the incumbents have lost, the Wa East constituency, for instance, you're making a point about it, and we're looking at a situation also in Wa East, for instance. So Nasiruddin, whom you see out there, Nasiruddin contesting, is like a child to Bayon.
Yes.
And so Nasiruddin, who lived with Bayon, decides to go and contest Bayon. And this is a man who knows Bayon inside out. He's lived with him. Bayon has taken care of him. He's represented him in many instances as his father. And then he decides to contest him in a parliamentary primaries. Normally, when what that actually does to you is that when someone from your house comes to contest you, he says things about you. People buy. Issues about Bayon's health came from within. It's affected him. Of course, people could see, but also coming from his child has affected him. But talking about areas that incumbents have lost, you've talked about your, own this constituency. I keep getting lots of messages, even as I check the results, that I haven't talked about, my constituency yet. So I need to go to my own constituency. That's the Mpoho constituency. Now, in the Mpoho constituency, the incumbent member of parliament for Mpoho, that's, Alex Kofi Ejekum. Now, he's lost. He polled 101 votes to John Abu Asani, who polled 192 votes. Alex Kofi Ejekum is the chairman of the Youth and Sports Committee in Parliament. He was seeking a third term. Now, there's something unique happening in the Mpoho constituency, and I'll tell you this. He's actually won twice. The previous member of parliament won twice. From 1992 to 1996, there was, a CPP candidate, then PCP, you know, Aka's party at the time. She won. That's Stella Nkoma. She won in 92. In 96, you had Major Amponsa, you know, becoming member of parliament in the old Mpahawasa East constituency. He did 2 terms, then leaves it to A.E. Amwa, who does 2 terms, and by the time A.E. Amwa was stepping out, there was a creation of a new constituency. So there was a split, Wasa East and Mpaho. Then Alex Kofi-Ejekum takes over. He does 2 terms also. And in his attempt to do a 3rd term, he's been unseated. Lots of things might have worked against him in that particular constituency. There's been lots of allegations here and there. The fact that they believe that he had lost touch with some you know, key personalities in the constituency. And also the fact that you have you know, the largest town in the constituency, in Mpaho, not rooting for him and so presenting their own candidate. But sadly, even if you go to some of you know, what was supposed to have been Alex Kofi-Ejekum's strong you know, areas, he couldn't make it there. So Alex Kofi-Ejekum wouldn't be coming to Parliament. The chairman of the Youth and Sports Committee in Parliament has had to bow out of Parliament. We'll try and get you know, some reactions from him, because then you want to know what lies ahead of him, because certainly this is not what he would have wanted. 101 to 192, Dr. Yakubu.
Yeah, I think that what we have to also remember is for a lot of the candidates, especially incumbents, perception can be a problem for you. Perception. Just as you said, people felt that he had lost touch with some people. People felt that sometimes it's not based on any scientific data. Just people's perception, people's impressions after interacting with you can put them on the fence about supporting you. So perception in itself is a big problem that candidates have had to work with when they are competing. Now, when this perception gets rooted and your competitors use that as a tool to be able to beat you at the polls, that is where your problem is. So you are in a position to be able to work with the delegates before it gets to the final vote. That is what it is. We know that there are a lot of strategies people use when it comes to delegate management and how who you think will vote for you and who will not. But perception is a problem that plagues most candidates.
Let's get to you know, another constituency where the incumbent member of parliament has lost. That is the Offenso South constituency, where the incumbent member of parliament, Ben Abdallah Banda, has lost the election. He's joined us. We speaking to him shortly. Honorable Ben Abdallah, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, sir. It is my pleasure speaking to you this afternoon.
Great. So you have been member of parliament since 2008. Sadly, in your bid for a 4th term in parliament, you couldn't make it. What didn't work out for you this time around?
It's okay. Let me, first of all, say hi to all your listeners, and then thank Almighty Allah for taking me through this elections right from the outset to today, when everything came to an end. I did my best. My campaign team members, we all did our best. We campaigned very, very vigorous. But at the end of the day, the delegates have to decide, and they have decided, and they have chosen one of the people that I contested with. So just that, we really have to forge ahead and put whatever has happened behind us, and work in the interest of the party and try to bring about more cohesion, unity, and togetherness, and work very hard for Nana Danko Akufo-Addo for the 2020 elections. There's a battle that children of the same womb did contest. And the contest, whatever it is not all about win-win-win. You can win or you can lose. Before I entered the contest, I really conscientized myself that I could win, I could lose. I didn't tell myself that I had to win this battle at all costs. I knew that one is a battle. It is about winning or losing. So when it came that I have lost, it came as a surprise though to me, but I'm not pained at all. I'm not worried at all. Man proposes and God disposes. So once God has decided, I have to accept it as a decision of God. God speaks through the delegates, and once the delegates have spoken, it is God who has spoken. So I accept and I have to abide by that.
So have you spoken to the one who beat you to it? Have you pledged your support for him?
Oh, I have considered defeat. There is a platform that we have a lot of decent people guys on in our constituency. I've expressed my congratulatory message on the platform. I've had an opportunity to speak on air. There is an FM station in our constituency. I called and spoke on air and immediately congratulated the winner, Dr. I.Y. Opoku. And I believe that at this time of the day, they are still in the jubilation mood. So even if I were to call him, there's no way that I'll get him. So I want everything to cool down. At the appropriate time, I'll call to congratulate him and wish him well and tell him that I'll work with him. If he's willing to work with me, I will work with him in any capacity that I find myself, whether directly or indirectly, in order that the vote of the constituency, both for the parliamentary candidate and that of the presidential candidate, in this particular case, His Excellency the President, will show up. And so I'm not worried at all. And let me also say that I'm the only MP who has done 3 terms in the constituency. The first MP that came, he did 1 term. The second MP that came, he did 1.5 terms, and then he passed on. And then the third MP that came, he did just 2 years. Then I took over. And so I've done 3 terms, 1, and it is unprecedented in the history of the constituency. So I think that I've done well. So I wish him well, and I'll work with him, and then I have no problem working with him at all.
Okay. But, you know, when you say, for instance, that you knew you could lose, you are going into an elections as an incumbent that you were not sure of winning. Why did you go then? No, I didn't say that I was not sure of winning. I said that I knew that it is a battle. It was a battle. Once it was a battle, you could either win or lose. You could have your strategy, but your opponent might have a better strategy. But I think that they had a better strategy than mine. That explains why they won. I did my best. I can say without any hesitation or scintilla of doubt that I did my best. Okay. But let's look at this trend. I mean, so there's a trend building because we see that, you know, some, you know, of the constituencies where some of your colleagues have lost, many of them are chairman of committees. So the chairman of the finance committee, Marcus Ibeyeboa, losing. We have, you know, the chairman of the communications committee, Pariansa, he's lost. William, you know, chairman of the youth and sports committee, that's Alex Kofi-Ejekum, has also lost. Vice chairman of Parliament's Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee, that's Abraham Odum, has also lost. The vice president of roads, that's Kofi Bakon, has lost. It's like the extended leadership of Parliament on the majority side is actually losing their seat. What is the problem? As for the problem, I think that we have to sit down and do some introspection. Is it a reflection of the anger of the foot soldiers that has been visited on the MP? I at this particular moment, I will not be in a position to tell, but it is unfortunate that a lot of the incumbent MPs have lost. Dr. Ibeyeboa, for instance, is a very seasoned member of Parliament.
Suhum MP, he was a very seasoned member of parliament, and likewise all the others who have lost. So I don't know what is going to even become of parliament now, because we have about since 6 months into an election, and the news that we are hearing is not palatable at all. But once the delegates have spoken, we don't have any other choice. So as a party, I think that we need to sit down and do introspection and then find out why so many of our MPs have lost. I mean, it's quite a surprise, but there's nothing that we can do about it.
Mm. You talked about whether, as anger being extended to you, whether people are angry with the party, and that's extending it to you. You've also talked so. But since you say you need to research, we won't get so much into that. But you've also talked about the need to sit up. Now, having said these two, do you fear that for some of the areas where you had members going unopposed, and the fact that in some of those constituencies there were few machinations allegedly to have these persons going unopposed, it could affect the party's fortunes? Hello, Robert Ben Abdallah, yes.
Yes, yeah, I can hear you. I think that before they decided that some MPs should go unopposed, there was some sort of consensus building right from the onset, because at a time where some people emerged and wanted to contest those who are going unopposed, I believe that there was some kind of hullabaloo or some seeming confusion, or if like chaos, in those constituencies. But I believe that the party hierarchy went behind, and then behind the scenes tried and calmed nerves down and sort of tried and brokered some settlements before, at the end of the day, it was a decision was arrived that these MPs should go unopposed. But I admit that there were a few constituencies where some MPs went unopposed, were declared unopposed, but there were a few agitations coming from the grassroots people. Be that as it may, I think we still have some time left from now till December to try and do our homework well, and then try and calm down nerves. Wherever there are agitations, we should try and deal with those agitations decisively before the December election is due. Otherwise, even our campaigning is going to be a problem, because if you have a lot of people agitated against certain things and steps are not taken to resolve those issues, there's a likelihood of people being apathetic. But I don't think that is going to happen. We still have some time left. We'll work around the clock and ensure that everybody is brought on board to ensure another victory for His Excellency the President, Nana Danka Akufo-Addo, come December 7, 2020.
Okay. Quick two questions. Since some were, made to go unopposed, you disappointed following your loss that you were not privileged to have been one of those? Maybe you wouldn't be having this conversation.
Oh, I'm not disappointed at all. I have never faced contest. I always like contest, and it is the contest that decides your fame or your popularity. You get it, all things being equal. So once I went into the contest, and I have realized that the delegates didn't want me, they wanted somebody else. So it goes to tell me or any other person that if I had been declared unopposed, probably something very bad would have happened. Initially, the party hierarchy wanted to declare me unopposed, but realizing or sensing that there was some kind of agitation in the contest, I believe that explains why at the end of the day, they said there should be a contest. And I was not disappointed at all. when the party hierarchy said that we should go for a contest. So at the end of the day, once the delegates have spoken, I think this is a very distinct and clearer decision than if I were to go in a post. Finally, what's next for you? Yes, I know you're a lawyer, but have you started thinking what you're going to be doing outside Parliament? Oh, I'll continue to work for the party in whatever capacity that I may find myself. The fact that I've lost doesn't mean that I'm leaving the party. I'm still a true member of NPP. And from this time up to December, I'm still a member of Parliament for the constituency. I work for the constituency. I work for the incoming member of Parliament. That is the person who has won now. I work with the party hierarchy. I'll support the party in whatever capacity that I find myself. I'm even now going to work more for the party because I'm going to have a lot of time. My pressure is going to be lessened to a large extent. I'm not going to encounter a lot of pressure as I'm currently going through, or I used to go through some time ago. So I think that things will be better, will be cooler now than before. So I'll have enough time to work very assiduously, or more assiduously, for the party than before. Well, Ben Abdullah, thank you very much for joining us, and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, so that's the Member of Parliament for Finsu South. He's also lost in his re-election bid, and so he's told us how he's going to be working for the party. I'll get Ansata Yakubu into this conversation shortly, but we need to, still stay on the phone lines because we have the Member of Parliament for La Dadeko Topong, Vincent Odotesoa, Obama they call him, and he's also lost, to Gerald Tete Nyanyofio. He's lost to Gerald Tete Nyanyofio, and I'm told he's joined us on the phone. Honorable Vincent Odotesoa, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How are you?
Well, we're doing very well, except that we're surprised that you lost the election, and also by that margin. What happened?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the verdict of the delegates. That's the verdict of the delegates. I mean, you go into a fight, you do well, you do what you can, and maybe this time our best was not good enough. So congratulations to Gerald and his team. Life goes on.
Talking about life goes on, did you at any point see this coming, Obama, Vincent Odotesoa? Did you see it coming in any way?
Oh, well, what would I say? I mean, I've been telling people, those of us who've been in football, you go into a match, you win, you lose, you win some, you lose some, there's a draw. Well, anyone who's been, and in this game of politics, you always, no matter how confident you are, you always prepare your mind that there could be, it could go the other way. So that's the mindset in which I went into this fight.
So you won the election in 2016. You went to Parliament in 2017, and you're bowing out. Have you spoken to Gerald? Would you want to be on his campaign? Would you want to collaborate with him to ensure that the NPP is able to win La Dadeko Topong? Mind you, in 2000, when you won it, in 2004, your party lost it to Ni Amasana Male, who did 3 terms before you unseated him. Are you prepared to ensure that you work with him to enable your party win again?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've said it, so let me repeat it. I mean, if even I weren't a member of Parliament, I would still, if His Excellency Nanado's government was a publicly listed company, I would have sold my mortgage and invested into it because I believe in the direction that the country is going. So definitely, I have no alternative but to ensure that NPP continues to remain in power, both at the constituency level and at the national level.
There are those who believe that when you, were removed as Deputy Communications Minister, that actually affected you and
sent kind of the wrong signal to your constituents. You share that view too?
I'd rather not comment on that.
Oh, okay. We respect your decision not to comment on it. So now that you've lost, now that you will not be representing your people in Parliament again, yes, you've promised us that you're going to, support Gerald, but you are a football administrator. You're probably considering going back into football, or you want to do something else?
Oh, Winston, I think it's too early. I'm still the member of Parliament till 7th January 2021. So I'll continue to serve my community. I'm sure you're aware of the social interventions I've put in place for the past 3.5 years. There's one of them which I made a promise, a social contract with the people that no matter where I find myself, I'll continue to do that, making sure that my children from the township benefit from free crèche dinners and KG. I'll continue. I promise I'll do it for 20 years, God willing. So I'll continue to do that. I have 18. I've done it 2 years. I'll continue to do that. So, I'll continue to serve my community. Before I came into party politics, I was a leader, in the youth leader in the town. I'm sure I can serve my constituency very well and make sure that all these things inure to the benefits of the NPP.
How about football?
I'm still in football. Football is like an opium. Once it gets into your blood, it stays there. So I'm still in football, a board member of the Accra Hearts of Oak. So that one I never, so definitely, it's still in my blood. We'll continue to do that. And the most important thing is to make sure that NPP becomes a party of choice and NDC never comes to power. That's my prime objective.
All right. Thank you very much, Vincent Odute-Soa, Member of Parliament for Ladade-Kotopong, who was unsuccessful in his re-election bid. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Okay, so Dr. Nansata Yakubu, that's Vincent Odute-Soa. Shortly we'll go and, listen to the declaration of Tangoba Abayage as winner. She's unseated Kofi Adda there. But this is constituency, a very tricky one. You have Ladade-Kotopong, the NPP wins in 2000. In 2004, they lose to Nyamasa Mwale. And when Vincent Odute, finally unseated Nyamasa Mwale, it was expected that he was going to be dominant in that constituency. Sadly, he's done a term and he's gone.
Winston, expectations of the constituents were probably not met. Don't forget, immediately you asked the sensitive question. We got his. He's more known as Obama than even. When he was campaigning, his campaign was total. It even looked like a national campaign, like he was contesting another party for the seat. But that was the primary, and he got everybody. The youth were energized. Don't forget, he has a very high youth group in his area. The youth were energized. They ran the streets. They got. So there were probably some expectations. As he said, it's a social contract. So there were some expectations from the people to him, and they probably think that he didn't deliver. However, before we go, Mr. Honorable Abdallah. Yeah, but let me tell you something about, since we're talking about this also. So this is actually a constituency that I have been monitoring for a very long time. Gerald Nyanyofio is one person who was actually invited to contest. Politicians say that a lot, that the constituents came to, but this is one person that you could actually vouch for and say they invited him to contest. How? Because, he's an MBA coordinator for UPSA. He has his PhD in public administration. He doesn't want to be called a doctor because he says, where I come from, the moment I am called a doctor, it detaches me from my community. Every Sunday he's there playing football with them. So he lives in Adenta, but he's always in the constituency playing with the people. So after some time they said, why don't you come and represent us as a member of parliament? Because the incumbent member of parliament is detached from us. And that's a challenge a lot of members of parliament face. In fact,
I can mention lots of people who became ministers and lost their next primaries.
Exactly.
Because the moment they became ministers, for some reasons they forget that they have to go back to their constituencies. Also, the problem is that once you become a minister, you're serving a lot more people, and so your attention is divided between your constituency and national affairs. It becomes a challenge for you. If there's one thing that didn't work for Vincent Odote, the people felt he had become detached from them. They felt since he became Member of Parliament. But you know, even before he became Member of Parliament, you know, there was this song of having to choose between Obama, who some people think that, you know, had some few issues running Accra Hearts of Oak or being with Accra Hearts of Oak, and Nia Masana Mwale. In the end, they said, okay, we would go for Obama. This is an area that loves Hearts of Oak also, so they went for Obama. Congratulations to Gerald Nyanyufio. You're going to say something about Ben Abdallah.
Yes, I was going to say that in the weeks running up to this primary, we saw serious agitation from his constituency, which manifested in ways that we haven't seen in a while, with sheep and schnapp and curses and all that. And it was unfortunate that these were just dismissed. A lot of people discounted it, dismissed them, but that is his base. These are the people who will stand tall to make sure that you win the ballot. So if they come out agitating like that, you should have a strategy that you would go back to your base to speak to them. He responded nicely and said, look, I understand your agitations. I'm going to do well to try to bring people on board. But it doesn't seem, either he didn't succeed when he went to try to broker, or he didn't even go at all. But even at the national level, the national committee came out to say that the people should be sanctioned, the constituency executive should suspend these people who did that. That is not a way to go if there are serious agitations. And mind you, it also means that there were no internal spaces for these people to be able to articulate what their problems were. And that is why it just boiled over, and they use the only way possible. Get a sheep, get some shanap, go and then, you know, invoke curses on the leadership. So just a week to the primaries, that in itself didn't serve very good notice for his candidature. It didn't serve a good notice at all.
Sadly, after 3 terms in Parliament, you know, sometimes when the current CEO of Kokobot, that's Joseph Boahenedi, when he lost his seat in 2012, he had been in Parliament he won election in 2000 to 2012 when he lost. One of the things that he said was that having lost the elections, he's realized that naturally, after 3 terms in Parliament, people become fed up with you. Oh yes, I mean, that was what he actually said at the time, that after 3 terms in Parliament, people become fed up with you. Also because, you know, people get to Parliament, and in our local areas, the expectation is that because you did a lot of things just to get into Parliament, and once you get into Parliament, they see a few changes in here and there, they think they've given you a job. If after 3 terms you're not really satisfying them, the usual Mokwaya and Mokwaba song will be sung. But if you are somebody who consistently is with his people, you know, the important thing is that you take care of the delegates, many people have said. But in the safe seats, that's where the challenge is. In the safe seats, where the feeling is that if I contest and win, I'm going to go to Parliament. It's a done deal. People throw all their money into the elections, as in the primaries, win, and they go. The same can't be said about Ladade Kotopon, because you know, Gerald Nyanyufio compared to Vincent Odote, Obama, so you know, you'd say that the former deputy minister, just around you know, the time that he was removed, just this year, certainly would have been financially sound than a lecturer who was coming to contest him. Unfortunately, he's lost. But let me share with you, you know, the Old Tafo constituency results. So I'll start from Asieho. I'm sure that's what many people are interested in. So Louise Carol Sawadonko polls 113. Lord Inusa Lanza polls 27 votes. And then Emmanuel Obeng 44. Archibald Intri Aqua polls 0. He has no vote. And then Prince Odenehuapong 90. And guess who emerges victorious? Vincent Eko Asifwa, PRO of the Education Ministry. Well, he emerges victorious. But let's get it to Rafiq Salam in Wa. So you know the results in Otafo. He'll be joining us shortly. Rafiq Salam in Wa will be joining us shortly with the official results from the Wa East constituency in the Upper West region. He will share with us also some of the results in the Upper West region. But we have results from the Infantiman constituency, where the incumbent Eko Kwanzaa Hayford pulled 652 to beat James Kosa Brown, who had 211 votes. So that's the Infantiman constituency there. Eko Kwanzaa Hayford polling over 600 votes to beat his only contender. And then if you go to Doma East, so that's where the current member of parliament, who's also the deputy minister in charge of monitoring and evaluation, William Sabi, he polled 153 votes compared to Paul Chumberima, who polled 225, and then Kwabena Safo Kantanka polling 31 votes. What it means is that William Kwesi Sabi, currently Deputy Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation, won't be coming back to Parliament on the ticket of the NPP. Of course, you know the Bantama elections where Daniel Ochimabwaji polled 122 compared to Francis Asenso-Boache's 456. Earlier the research had indicated that it was going to be a closely fought contest. This doesn't look like a closely fought contest, based on the figures that we're seeing. Out of 578 votes, Asenso-Boache gets more than 70% of it. And it's a landslide victory for him. And so he gets to represent Bantama. Interestingly, Bantama is becoming a very tricky one. So you know that, Dr. Nasata Yakubu, you know that the former member of parliament for Bantama did 1 term. The incumbent is going to do 1 term. And Asenso-Boache is coming.
We are not predicting that one yet.
No. I certainly can't predict. But, the incumbent, when he unseated Kokofu, then member of parliament in 2015, he called that a tsunami approach. In this election, he said he was going to use what you call the submarine approach. His campaign was, Kokofu is deputy CEO, Asenso-Boache is deputy chief of staff, I am member of parliament, you have Cecilia Abnadapa also as minister. So we're doing well as Bantama. So if Asenso-Boache is at the Jubilee House, and I am the member of parliament, I bring in, say, something. He says he bought, I think, was it a ventilator or so for the hospital? Then Asenso-Boache bought, an ambulance. And he says, wow. So what it means is that if I bring the small one, you bring the big one, we add it, it's bigger. So stay where you are, let me stay where I am. And then together we'll make Bantama better. Sadly for him, that campaign did not resonate well with the people.
At all. Yeah, that was one of the constituencies going that had also had a lot of acrimony in the campaign, with people printing books about what they've achieved and what they hadn't achieved and all that. So it was interesting to see. I think they were one of the very first to start collating, and then we saw straight away that it's going to. This is also teaching us is that we are going to have a very big attrition rate. When Honorable Abdullah was speaking, we didn't pick up on that. I know that's a conversation we're going to have. What the implications are for strengthening Parliament's work, going into the future. I mean, even if we move beyond just the MPP itself and look at other political parties and who they've also lost or who we are set to lose in the national election, what the implications are for strengthening parliamentary democracy. That's one of the things fallouts that we have to look at from the way they are all coming out. But I'm not taking anything away from this, but it is the person's strategy that worked. If you look at the person's strategy, because they were, even though they had other candidates there, you could see it was like a 2-horse race, between him and the other one. It was just 2 of them that were always in our faces, in the media, speaking and having it out. The other one that you spoke about, the Doma East, there was also research for that projected Dr. Safo Kantanka to win.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I have seen.
There was research, and I remember having a conversation with a friend and saying, there's this research, but it's not scientific, because the person is saying, I have discussed with up to 75 delegates, and up to 75% of the delegates, and they have indicated that they will be voting for Safo Kantanka. Now, The person who even led this research is a student, I think, of Dr. Kantanka from the university. So if you say I'm from the university and they know he works at the university, that in itself is going to give you some margin of error. And you know, people also make it look like the vote is kind of secret and secret to the person casting the ballot. So when you ask somebody, or who would you be voting for, the person can size you up and think you are coming from this area or that area. So, okay, I'm going to vote for this person because that is the results they think would satisfy you rather than who they actually would vote for. Plus, a lot of things change. If you did this research a month ago, 1 week to the election, things can change. Exactly. So Safo Kantanka's research also didn't really manifest in the results that we are looking at.
So I actually have with me a research that was conducted by, it was more like by national security. And don't look at me like that. In that research, it says that, that's William Kwesi Sabi is the leading candidate. In fact, the others were written off. So in that particular research, if you're giving a green circle, it means that you are in the lead. There are others who have also lost this election, who were tipped to win. For instance, Amase in Akutia, she was also tipped to win, and she also lost. But of course, some have also, come to pass, and we'll be getting more of it, even in the Nkoko constituency. Sadly, that also, the projections by national security that these persons, the current member of parliament together with David Asante were in the lead. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we know now that Kofi Adda wouldn't be going back to parliament on the ticket of the NPP, and that Tango Babayage, the current Upper East Regional Minister, is beating him to 307 votes to Kofi Adda's 266. Let's go watch the declaration of Tango Babayage, Honorable Tango Babayage, the Upper East Regional Minister. And then when we return, we'll be getting more into those who have lost. We'll be speaking to them. We'll be finding out from them what worked, what didn't work, and what their next life is going to be like.
The commission is grateful that I'd like to bring the Parliamentary Primaries, 20th June 2020, final declaration of results. Written Upper East Constituency, Navrogo Central. Name of candidate, Honorable Tagoba Abaiji, 307 votes.
All right, so that's a bit of a declaration there for Tango Babayage. So we apologize for the poor quality of sound, but she's beaten the incumbent and minister in charge of aviation, Joseph Kofi Adda. And again, we're talking earlier about Kofi Adda's, reign as member of parliament. He's one person who's been a fighter, but also the accusations keep coming. The fact that it gets to a point in time when they are seen as detached from the people. And once you're detached, that's the end of it. But Dr. Yakubu, few days to the elections, contrary to what normally would happen if you're contesting, you'll be campaigning, the Upper East Regional Minister was actually in Accra. And she said she was cool because she knew that she had won the election already. Even, at the point she said, I've lost a member of my campaign team, so I want to be in a sober mood. I don't want to be campaigning vigorously. It seems she had a lot of backing then. It looked like something was really working for her. And also because Kofi Adda had his own issues, but also when you stay too long, and also when you're seen as not being so connected to the people. And one who is in the region, one who can always relate with them, you're on your way out of parliament.
Yeah, what I would say is that for Honorable Adda, if you look at his trajectory over the years on how he came to be the candidate, who he contests, and he's always fighting an uphill, battle. So that might have to do with either his communication with the delegates and the constituency itself, or as we are seeing, the issue, when you have been there for so long, it's like your name is always the one associated with it. Then people say we want change. Now, this kind of symptom is different from what the executive to be about. People seem to forget that with an executive, it's a 4-year term. A president comes in 4 years, that's 8 years, cannot go beyond the 8 years. Parliament is a different ballgame. With Parliament, the longer you are there, the better the institution goes. The institutional memory is better, and a lot of members of Parliament are free to really pursue their work. We have muddied the waters in the way that we run our executive and Parliament, because we do the executive-legislative fusion, where the president can take up to 51% of his cabinet from members of Parliament, where you have members of Parliament being put in other executive positions, and the members of Parliament also being allowed to sometimes pursue their own, work. And even added to that is the issue of members of Parliament and constituent relations. You have constituents going to Parliament asking a member to buy a coffin, to buy a sheep for them to celebrate their name their child, to even buy a sheep for second wife, all kinds of issues. So those kind of problems, and it's a work against sometimes efficiency in their work for a lot of members of Parliament. Up until recently, they didn't even have their own offices where they could meet their constituents and things like that. So you always have a parliament, if you see a member of Parliament's timetable, so to speak, it's so tight. So when you are also a minister, and for instance, look at where Navrongo is. I'm not holding brief for anybody, but I'm just saying, Navrongo is up. And if Mr. Ada, for instance, is a member of Parliament and is a minister, and you talk about disconnect, yes, it might be that he hasn't worked out a good way of going back home, or even if he has, that issue we talked about of expectation and perception. People can think that, well, we don't see you enough, or I came to you and you didn't do what I wanted. But we have to also recognize that Parliament is not executives. The executive position is not the same. But because we have that, people become ministers, and then when people are also campaigning, they can tell you, oh, I'll build the road. Meanwhile, parliamentarians are not supposed to be building roads and not supposed to be doing that. So we have a whole, communication problem around. Yes, if you don't say you will build the road, they won't vote for you or something
exactly
like
that.
that.
I mean, if you're going to Parliament, are you going to say that, vote for me so that I go and articulate better in Parliament for you?
As you have seen, I will not be going. But if I will give them advice, it's better if they all start saying what exactly a member of Parliament is supposed to do. I know that's one of the areas civil society has been trying to help, that we understand what the role of an MP is. What makes it difficult is when your MP is a minister, and so you see your MP opening a hospital or inaugurating some school, and then my MP is not going anywhere. So the point is, if I come back and say, if you vote for me the next time, I'll give you a school, because I've seen another MP doing it, why not? I will vote for you because I also want a school. But technically, members of Parliament are not the executive. That is where we are. So if our local government system, for instance, was working very well, then you go to your DCE, your MCE, and that is where we can go and be agitating more on these things. Because if we have members of Parliament who have been there for the third term, the fourth, going, and with new people just coming, it's always good for a mixture of the old and the new. Nobody is against that. But if you have members of Parliament who are in leadership position, leadership of the House, ranking members, chair of committees, chair of subsidiary and things like that, all losing their seats, and it's not going to be easy to take from the pool that will be taken back, that will be voted back into Parliament in the 2021 when we start a new Parliament. Because if you know the cost of training one member of Parliament, it's not easy. People in parliamentary training business will tell you, training one member of Parliament is not, yes, that's the kind of work that it's not small work.
How much does that involve?
Hey, wait, I will get you the figures. I don't want this, but it is a lot of money. It is a lot, a new member of Parliament, it is a lot of money. And even the members of Parliament, existing members, do a lot of work to try to bring their colleagues, along, especially at the committee level. And in other ways, they encourage them and they try. But if they were even just to leave them, it's not easy. It's a lot of money to train one member. So to speak, I'm not saying it means that we shouldn't vote new members. We are just saying that when the attrition rate is high, if for every parliament you are losing up to 40%, up to 45%, that's worrying. That is worrying. So we need to be able to... That would also mean that...
Yes, go ahead.
We will need to be able to come up with a way that the political parties work, to ensure that we have that kind of cohesion. Look, there are different ways. If you look at the 65 members of parliament that were given the acclamation status or endorsement status for this particular one, for instance, you realize they are women, they are men. It's a mix. It's not all of them. Some are one-time MP. My constituency here, where I live, Lejokuku, Dr. Boy is new. He's a new one-time MP. And they had their internal structures that arrived at who becomes endorsement or whatever, in the unopposed category. The party worked on that and had. There are other people who felt that, a lot of people felt that some others should have been given that opportunity. But even that, 65, out of how many people do they have? 168 or so. They have
169.
That's about 39% of your. That's a lot.
Yes, in fact, if you add
that in itself is a lot.
If you add the other 4, the fact that the remaining constituencies, okay, so apart from Kwadaso, which is going to go into a contest, you have
I think one of the Domas.
You have Bushegu, you have Domas Central.
Yes,
that's the health minister, and you also have Ayawaso West Ogun, also because it came through a by-election. The MPP would normally, if you come through a by-election, they tell you, okay, you could go unopposed. So you have 68 of them going unopposed.
That's like 39-40%.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So that in itself sets a certain precedent. And now, if you look at the fact that a lot of those, they now said, okay, you go and contest. The usual suspects that we expected to win are also now coming back. The question people are asking is, so does it mean that if these 68 people were also told to contest, what would have happened?
Well, what would have happened?
That is a question that we have. What would have happened? And what are the implications for not letting that contest come? Because we are getting a lot of people saying, I'm going independent. I'm going independent. So as we are speaking, we need to know that between now and December, it's a lot of, they will need to catch up and make sure that those independents and those people who are aggrieved and peeved and all that, you come back to the fold. Because when it's going to the national ballot, it's different politics. For today and a couple of days after this, people will not be in a very good mood to, I mean, you will smart from the fact that you have lost. That one is for sure. But then, in a couple of days, people will be reflective and realize that the national ballot is in their interest more than, this myopic thing of saying my candidate didn't win, so I'm going independent, or my candidate didn't win, so I'm not going to compete, or I'm not going to contest, So they would need to, and I'm sure that the party is very well aware of this and has their own way of how they will bring people back into the fold.
You made a point, a very important point, the fact that with all these persons, the 68 who are going to go unopposed, would they also have made it? Well, certainly not all of them would have made it. But then that would raise another question. So nobody cares what promise you make in the constituency. What they care about is how you fulfill the promise. So if you come and say, oh, I will do this thing, I'll do, they're not going to look at you the next day and say, oh, we know it was difficult for you to fulfill. People look forward to things. The things you do, I mean, our ancestors have said something, that do not start what you can't finish. If you want to be a member of parliament, the way people start, it is expected that they continue like that. But as has already been indicated, it's always a huge problem in party primaries, particularly where they hold seats. Because there's the belief that if I win, I am 55–60% certain of getting to parliament. So let's look at Suhum constituency. It's a safe seat for the NPP. So whoever has won is expecting to get to parliament, unless the unfortunate thing happens. Ikuapem South is a safe seat for the NPP. Whoever wins, that's Obi Yamwa winning now, all things being equal, we'll see him in parliament in 2021. If you go to Adenta, is a swing constituency. So if you win, you now face an uphill task of deciding. And I know that, candidates in the Adenta race who were looking at their chances and deciding how much to invest into the race. You understand? Because they felt, okay, so I'm going into a race, it's likely I would lose. I need to make a representation. So how much do I invest so that I'm sure that the next time I do not find myself wanting? But in all things, the question of a moneycracy still lingers. The fact that our politics is becoming a money-driven venture, not so much of ideas, is playing out also. Because there are lots of persons who have complained that this is the reason why they lost. Anyway, this is the election headquarters, and we're bringing you live coverage of the NPP's parliamentary primaries. Already, you've heard from Dr. Makasibe. He was unsuccessful. He loses. I mean, he's lost to Michael Otribefi, a contestant for the second time. And, you know, Michael Otribefi now will be representing the people of New Jabing South on a ticket of the NPP come 2020 parliamentary primaries. Based on the fact that that's actually a safe seat for the NPP, all things being equal, he probably might, you know, be coming to Parliament, and I choose my words carefully, all things being equal, so that nobody says that, you know, I said, but let's get to one now, because Rafiq Salam is in Wa. He has some results for us. I just love how he mentions Wa. Rafiq, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Hello, Rafiq.
Hello, close about 80 kilometers southwest. Hello, Western.
Great, Rafiq. So tell us what's been happening. I can hear you.
I just came from the Laura constituency. I'm now in the Wa constituency, but I want to talk about the Wa East constituency, where there's shocking results there from that constituency. The incumbent member of Parliament, former teacher and also former local musician, 10 politician, he has lost the battle. And so he was defeated by engineer Salif Yaku. So let me get you the results. Honorable Governor Tango, he got 182 votes. 182 votes. And then Adams Badu Nasruddin, the man whose father was the MP for the Wa area in 1979, he failed to make it to the NPP candidature, and now he had 16 votes. And then also Salifu Yakubu had 214, and Dr. Sorokwon Yakubu Adama, he's a lecturer, he had 140. And so the results that we are telling you is that the shocking results from the West constituency, Godfrey Bayon Tango, he was the first person who was able to win a seat for the NPP in the 2004 election. And now he was defeated by Amin Salifu. He came back to Parliament in 2016, and this time around, on the ballot of the NPP ballot paper, he was beaten by engineer Yakubu Salifu, who's an engineer working with my 10. And so that is the result from the West constituency, and that is really a shocking result.
How about the Laura constituency?
From the West constituency. The Laura constituency, Anthony Inyo Abefakabu ran to victory again. Out of the 435 votes that was cast, he had 403, and his challenger, Joseph Belston-Donta, had only 32. Remember the last election 5 years ago, Belston-Donta got 63. So this time around, he managed to get only half of what he got 5 years ago. And so Anthony is going to represent the NPP in the 2020 polls. So we have provisional results coming from the Sisala West and Sisala East. They are not yet confirmed by the Electoral Commission, but the news coming from that from those constituencies is saying that the incumbents, two incumbents, Honorable Ridwan Abbas Dauda and then Patrick Adam Alassan. Remember, that is his uncle. You know, Patrick Adam Alassan is a twin sister of Ridwan Abbas' mother, and so both of them lost.
All of them lost. The incumbents lost.
The incumbents. So in that post region, 3 incumbent members of NPP lost the elections.
Briefly, Rafiq, what could have caused the loss of the other 2? Yes, we know of the Tangu case. What happened in the other 2's case? I mean, you are in there. What could have been the reason?
You know, since the NPP won power in 2016, in that particular constituency, let me use the Sisala West for instance, there have been a lot of disagreement between the party executives and also the party parliamentarian and also the district chief executive of the area. You remember somewhere, I think a couple of years ago, you have some members of the party, some executives of the party who were alleged to have gone into to lock out the DC in the Sisala West at Golu. And so they were brought to where they were arrested, and also they were in remand for close about a month. And so it appears that issue has not been settled. You know, if you even take the constituency, for example, when they were doing the constituency elections, you have the MP and then the district chief executive on one side, and you have what? The executives also on one side. And so it's like a campaign, they were doing campaign against each other. It was alleged that the district chief executive and then the MP folded candidates against the incumbents. I'm talking about the executives, but all the executives who were remanded at the war president were able to sail through. And so it's payback time. And so they have never forgiven the MP and then the district chief executive. And so they did everything. And then this time around, they are able to unseat him with Naluwe Salifu, who is a former member or a former district chief executive in the Kufuor administration. You will move to the Sisala East constituency. You have the Deputy Airport Minister, Attrition, contesting against Ridwan Abbas Dauda. Remember, this is, you can call it the battle of the Wele, because Bogobele and Wolembele, they are too close. They are neighbors. They don't even intermarry because of the close ties that these people have. So you have Ridwan coming from Wolembele, and you have the Deputy Minister also coming from Bogobele. And so, remember the last elections 5 years ago, NPP seems to have a problem in that particular constituency until 2016 when Ridwan Abbas came around and won the seat for the party. NPP has been fielding candidates since 1996, and they have never won that particular seat. And even it came to a time that they had some kind of a convention with the People National Convention, the PNC. And so PNC were the ones fielding candidates in those particular areas. That's where you have the Bayaragas and then the Moses Dibier and co. They winning that particular seat. And so it's a tug of war between Ridwan Abbas Dauda and then also Chinia. Remember the last elections, it was, you know, the 2008 and 2012 elections was really bitter because there's one man, I have forgotten his name. He used to work for the Voter Review Authority, and then he once contested to become the party's parliamentary candidate. And then he won in 2008, I think a certain Ahmed Atta. And then when he contested against Attrition Isaku, and so they went into the elections. According to reports that we are having, he was not supported by Chinia, and then he didn't win the election. So in 2012, Chinia stood on the ticket of the party and won. And so this man also didn't support him in 2012. And so that particular seat went to the NDC. So in 2016, Ridwan Abbas came out as a newcomer. He came out, he didn't have a size because the party was divided between Chinia and the other man. And so when Ridwan Abbas came into the fold, he won the elections. And so this time around, these are two blocks. So you have people who are supporters of Chinia against Ridwan Abbas, who somehow had some kind of agreement because his supporters seems to be moving on well with Ridwan Abbas. And so exactly that was what happened. So the party is divided in the Sisala East constituency, okay. And that's exactly what happened. So, but I'm really not sorry. I'm really surprised about Chinia winning that particular elections.
All right, Rafiq Salam, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have you wrap up with your, but that's it from Rafiq Salam. I like how he wraps up. So, still in your area, we have a situation where they're losing. But we'll be getting onto the phone line shortly. We'll be speaking to a reporter from Akimoda. We'll be finding out. So we've been talking about the results. We'll get the final results from the Electoral Commission. We'll be announcing the provisional results to you that says that the incumbent member of parliament has lost. to Alexander Akwesi-Akwa. But let me just say this. So, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, there we have it. Again, it looks like a certain trend. If you are not on good terms with your executive, you're not on good terms with your people. But Sisala, East and West, the incumbent MPs are gone.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you listen to Rafiq's, the background that he gave, it's the same thing we've been talking about. This is not something that has just happened. This is history that people are carrying forward up to this day. And it means that over the period, the party lost the opportunity to be able to discuss with the people on the ground the best way forward. If you close the internal spaces for them to articulate their grievances, this is what we get. Because if you don't include people to discuss what exactly the problems are facing them and how they can resolve them amicably in their constituency, and then it gets to crunch time, then they go and vote the way they want. And these are delegates that have been there over the period from other delegates. So they've been carrying forward either the pain, you know, and the annoyance and all that, and it has manifested in the current ballot that they have just released.
I'll get back to you shortly, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, because we have to go to Achimota now. Kwame Jan is there, and he joins us on phone. Kwame, thank you very much for joining us. So we hear reports that the incumbent member of parliament has lost to Alexander Akwesi-Akwa. Can you tell us the final results, what they are, and the mood currently in Achimota?
Okay, if you come to Achimota constituency, there were 3 candidates, which was the incumbent MP, Honorable Myjoyonline Kwetu, then Honorable Asante Bediakon Richard, then Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa. These 3 people were the aspirants in the constituency. But in that constituency, there were 18 polling stations, 18 electoral areas, but they grouped them into 5 zones. So for the first zone, it was Srodai, Asenye, Ahembronu, and Nyankumasu, which there were 80 people who were supposed to vote at Tifa Senior High Technical School. With the zone 2, there were Chemim number 2, Tubutum, and Sinai, and there were 3 electoral areas, which there were 69 people that were supposed to vote at Always. In zone 3, they were supposed to vote at the municipal assembly. That was the community 1 electoral area, Gorgesburg, PWD camp, residential, which was the zone 3. There were 68 people that were supposed to vote over there. Then with the zone 4, it was community 2, Morning Star in Quantanum. The constituency executives, patrons and elders, then coordinators, they count up to 91. They were supposed to vote at the conference hall. Then Pentecost Church in Quantanum, they were 4. Abuabo or Down Quanta, then Jedem and Isim. Out of these people, the 5 zones after the elections, zone 1, Honorable William Myjoyonline Kwetu had 14 votes over there. Then Honorable Asante Bediakon had 0. Then Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa had 66. In zone 2, Honorable William Myjoyonline Kwetu had 36. Honorable Asante Bediakon 0. Then Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa had 33. In zone 3, Honorable MP, the incumbent, had 31. Asante Bediakon 0. Alexander Akwesi-Akwa 36. Then zone 4, Honorable Kwetu had 43. Then Asante Bediakon, where he cast his vote as the patron, had 2 votes over there. And that was the only vote that he had in the elections. Then Alexander Akwesi-Akwa had 46 votes. In zone 5, where Abuabo or Damkwanta, Jedem, where the MP is coming from, and it's saying there were 80 people that were supposed to vote. Out of the 80, MP had 46. Then Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa had 34. Honorable Asante Bediakon had 0 votes over there. So at the end of it all, Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa was the winner, who had 215 votes. Then Honorable William Myjoyonline Kwetu had 170 votes. Then Honorable Richard Asante Bediakon had only 2 votes. So for now, the incumbent member of parliament for Achimota constituency, who is also the chairman for the education committee in parliament, Honorable William Myjoyonline Kwetu, has lost his seat to Honorable Alexander Akwesi-Akwa.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwame Jan, for joining us. Let's still stay on the phone because we're going to Yendi, where our correspondent Rauf Iliasu is in Yendi. Yendi is another interesting one because you have Umar Farouk Aliu Mahama and Haji Abibata battling it out there. Rauf Ilyasu, thank you very much for joining us. Share with us the results from Yendi.
Thank you. As we reported earlier, Yendi constituency is one of the constituencies that I think in the northern region where most of the party executive, party supporters are all looking up to Yendi constituency. Just because we all know that Umar Farouk Aliu Mahama is the late former vice president son. Aliu Mahama. And then we also have a lady with them also contesting with these two gentlemen who is also a deputy GU for the Maslock. And we also have one Dani, Baba Osman Dani, who is also a former worker at the Regional Coordinating Council, Northern Region here. So I think Yendi here, we just finished everything, and I think after the election, what's the name, the Aliu Mahama son, who is Farouk Aliu Mahama, has been declared as a winner for the Yendi constituency. He got, I think, 244 votes. And then the Osman Babadani also got 139. And I think Abibata Shani Mahama Zakaria also got 210 at the Yendi constituency. So as we speak now, currently they have declared Umar Farouk as a winner for the today's contest in Yendi here.
Ilyasu, thank you very, very much for joining us in there. So that's it, the results from Yendi. Umar Farouk Aliu Mahama emerging victorious. We'll tell you something about Yendi, but we need to go to Isaac Amwako. That's in the Asante Attrition, south, where we are told that Obo, he's contesting in that constituency. So Isaac, thank you very much for joining us. Did Obo win?
Hello?
Yes, Isaac. Did Obo win the elections?
No, Obo lost. Obo lost parliamentary list in Asante Attrition South. In Asante Attrition South.
Share with us the numbers.
You can come again.
Can you share the numbers with us?
Yes. The incumbent MP, which his name is Lawyer Kweku Asante Boateng, he got 364 votes. 364 votes. Incumbent MP, Lawyer Kweku Asante Boateng, by Obo Oseko 296. By Obo Oseko 296. Edmond Opompepra 9. Edmond Opompepra 9. William Yamwa 32. William Yamwa 32. Then Alec Amofa 8. So we see the contest is between the incumbent and then by Oseko former musical president.
So following the declaration, how is Bice Oseko taking it?
Yeah, the feedback is, after the declaration, he came out to congratulate the incumbent MP for his successful work that he is doing. So he told he will support him anytime he call him for the upcoming general election 2020. They will work together with the constituency so that they will win emerging votes in Asante Attrition South, over 10,000 votes as he has already promised.
All right, thank you very much, Isaac Amwako. We're grateful that you joined us. So that's Isaac Amwako there joining us. I know there were many of you who were asking this question. You wanted to know who had emerged victorious in the Asante Attrition constituency. So, per the numbers that we have, the incumbent Kwame Asante Boateng, who's the incumbent member of parliament, polled 364 votes. Bice Obo Oseko polling 396 votes. 296. I was actually declaring him winner with these figures. 296, one Edmond polling 9, William Yabon polling 32, Felix Amache 8. What it means is that the incumbent member of parliament wins. Obo, good showing, but he just could not make it, Dr. Yakubu. Prior to the elections, lots of things had been said about it. He had indicated that he was going to go in there and help, increase the party's votes. Then a few things happened to him, things about his father here and there. But he actually makes a very impressive first-time entry.
I know.
296 votes compared to the winner's 364 votes. He's done very well. He did
very well. But then that also tells you that the incumbent, it's a man of the people, and that's why he pulled. Like, Obo's campaign was very interesting, and I'm sure for people in Asante Achimsa, it was totally different. He moved in musicians there. The day I saw this musician that sang Tabita Kum, you remember him?
Oh, Nicholas.
Yeah, I saw him then. Then I saw Ify, and I was like, oh my word! I wish I was just there to see how how spontaneous the people would behave. He moved in people who supported him, people that his base would identify with, and he speaks very well. He comes across as someone who really understands the issues of the constituency. And he was able to really project his image and all that. So for a first time showing, he's done a good job. But what he's also done is that he's laid down the gauntlet, and he's made the incumbent to know that, I'm around, and I can challenge you, and I can compete and come up with favorable results. And I think that is what the party is looking for people to be given the opportunity to compete. And then at the end of the day, if you lose, as they said, you congratulate who won, and then you work together to build the party.
Well, if there is one thing that actually wins the election, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, one of them is not taking musicians to play songs for you.
Not necessarily
let's go back to...
they are not playing songs, but they are there to, interact with the people and make them happy.
Let's get back to 2008. You saw it in 2008. You saw it in 2008. You saw it in 2016, where musicians wanted to be captured doing songs for John Dramani Mahama. You saw it in 2008, when musicians wanted to do songs for President Akufo-Addo. Once upon a time, there was this politician, who was going to contest in a certain constituency. If I mention names, I don't have their permission to mention their names. So he was contesting for the first time. He played a gala, football gala, did so many things. Then he lost the election. So he met his political godfather, more or less. And he said, I'm told that he told him that, but this time around, the football and thing will not help you. The man says, yeah, that's what I hear. But why didn't you tell me earlier? Says, oh, no. You are launching yourself. You're not going in there to win.
But one thing, you have to also understand that it's one of the strategies you can use. But if it looks like it's your overwhelming strategy, we can't always make a song and dance about everything. People come and look for solutions to issues that are presented to you. These things are just for your base. And usually they are even for people who would vote for you anyway. If people vote for you, then they are happy to be singing and dancing.
Exactly.
But you don't use it to convince anybody, to give you extra vote or to come on board. But your base would definitely be happy and be energized, to work to bring you into power.
Right, so let's go to the Tolon constituency now, where Martina Bugri is. She joins us on Zoom. Martina, thank you very much for joining us. So
yes, the Tolong elections just ended a while ago, and we are heading back to Tamale. But this is how it went. Total delegates were 540. 536 came out to vote. 2 were rejected. The incumbent MP, Wahab Suhiyini Wumbe, pulled 164. And Habib Idris pulled 338. Mohammed Zakaria pulled 20, Jagbo Bako pulled 10, and Ajia Amama Saibu pulled 2. And so the incumbent MP for Tolong has lost the elections. The new candidate is Habib Idrisu.
Thank you very much for joining us, Martina Bugui, with the results from the Tolong constituency. Also another case of the incumbent member of parliament losing. In fact, I've lost count of the number of incumbent members of parliament in the 100 constituencies where there's been primaries. Today we've lost, from Nshiaeso to Bantama to Achimoda to, Ladade Kotopong to New Drabing South to Sisala West and East, and now to, to Wa East as well, now to Tolon. Lots of them are becoming unsuccessful in their bid to go back to parliament. Let's look at the Tolon constituency and the Yendi constituency. I know you have a lot of interest in the Yendi constituency.
Asante Achim South, we have an incumbent winning.
Winning, yes.
Yeah, at least the incumbent won. Laura, the incumbent won. So I think we'll probably also start measuring, like getting the numbers. I think we're getting there now.
We have lots of them. We've had Ben Abdallah losing. We have, if you go to the Western region, you have Isaac. And,
even Bantama and
yes, Atupanford losing. You have,
well, that's what I'm saying. That as we are going to close, we'll definitely start telling your viewers who retained. Okay, so for Tolong, another incumbent, it's gone. We have a new person on the block, Hafiz Idris. And then with Yendi, it's not an issue of an incumbent losing because the incumbent didn't stand. That's Honorable Tijani Habibu, who is, I think, he's Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. Yeah, so he didn't stand. But the interesting thing, when they say Farouk Ali Muhammad as the son of the former, and then there isn't enough background on the other two candidates, but I was very happy the reporter mentioned that Baba Usman is from the coordinating directly, and Habiba's father is a former, is a stalwart of the NPP in the Buzia, time, those 60s and 70s and things. So she's been, kind of died in the wood, kind of. MP. So it was a very keen contest. If you look at the results, it was interesting to see that nobody got any, how will I say, they all got decent numbers. Yeah. You see, everybody is in the two, even the person who won didn't really stretch the margin. So it was an issue of choice, and that all of them were competent, and the delegates felt that any of them could do it. What is very interesting is actually to see how Farouk Ali Muhammad would be, because when you're standing on the shoulders of your dad, who is quite tall. I mean, in his own right, he won. We will not take that away from. But it's very interesting to see how his politics, is going to be as against how his father's politics. But he's young, and Yendi is a very diverse, community. They've had their challenges in the past, but everybody is back to recruit now. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of ballot he will deliver in the national election for the NPP. Exactly, and so you're looking at Yendi. In the old northern region of the 1996, if you look at the elections there, you always would look out for Yendi and Gukpegu Sabongira at the time, where Mustafa Ali Idris was. After the splitting of Tamale, he goes to Tamale South, and and then Bembila, but you see, in Yendi then, you had Malik Al-Hassan Yakubu. When he lost in 2008, there were those who felt that the presidential primaries of 2007 and matters arising cost him. And the person who played a role then was Alhaji Ali Muhammad in Malik Al-Hassan's loss. Well, he loses and he goes out. So clearly, when you have Umar Farouk coming in, he's also coming in as someone whose father, apart from being a vice president, wields lots of influence in Yendi. Yep. He wields a lot of influence in Yendi. Of course, the Aliu Muhammad Foundation, which operates more or less from the Jubilee House, I saw persons from the foundation in Yendi going to support Farouk in the build-up to the election. That is not to say he had support from the Jubilee House. I'm saying the Aliu Muhammad Foundation went there to support him. Sometimes in politics, a good name also helps. Sometimes a good name helps. And I remember in the 2004 NDC National Delegates Conference to elect national executives, when we got to Kumasi, there was a banner that said, "Even though I am gone, I am still with you." That was at Tamils. Koko Anyido's campaign was, "If you like Atamils, vote for me." Sometimes, when your father or the person you support so much has a goodwill in a political party, it helps. You would also have to play a role. And Farouk has done just that.
we wish to see, we hope to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think Farouk,
you know,
the points of departure between Farouk and his dad is he's much younger and he brings a different kind of campaign to the politics of Yendi. He has more younger people. If to say that his dad was in the upper echelons, he has people who are much younger, you know, hitting the street. He has an energetic, you know, campaign. So he's going to bring more young people, you know, so it is not like the party of our fathers, but it is also like they looking and saying, this is a party I also choose to support now. What will be interesting to see his opponent, you know, in the NDC, how they both run their campaigns, you know, for that particular constituency. And it will be, another interesting dynamic would be, this will be the third time. I mean, so if we project that, because it's NPP now, we can just project that. If he makes it at the national ballot, this will be the third former president or former presidential kind of person whose ward would be in parliament. We had Samia and Nkrumah going, we have Honorable Zanoto Rawlings, and then we can have Farouk Aliu Muhammad. These are reflective of what happens in other jurisdictions. There are a lot of parliaments and executives all over the world where you have, you know, people's wards going, and sometimes even not through a very correct route, but we have this route that they have taken. Go put yourself for public office, get voted, and then go into the legislature. So it will be interesting to see what kind of campaign and how many votes he's going to deliver the party at the national ballot.
I don't know why you forgot that in adding the former president, there's a former president's son who is currently president, and he's also been in parliament.
And even the one before, right?
Yeah, you forgot about that one. Anyway, so yes, and even the one before. Yeah. So you see, there are more former.
Yeah, there are more. Yeah, but it's just nice to see, you know, I mean, that kind of dynamic, what kind of politics they would also bring, you know, whether they will change anything. It's just nice to see.
So let's get back to because Rafiq Salam now is joining us on Zoom with the exact results from CSALA. Rafiq, thank you very much for joining us once again. You have the results of CSALA now. Share them with us.
Yeah, the CSALA West and CSALA is, you know, that place is dear to my heart. And that's where my father found my mother. So the results for the CSALA is first, Patrick Alhassan Adama. He is the incumbent MP. He had 145. John Bosco's Tier Luri. He is the regional youth organizer of the NPP in the Upper West region. He got 9. And then Salfu Naluye, a former district chief executive in the Kufo administration, he got 222. So the results again, Patrick Alhassan Adama, the incumbent, is called Boga. He had 145. John Bosco's Tier Luri, regional youth organizer of the NPP, he got 9, and then Salfu Naluye, he got 222. I'm really not surprised about the results, because even the vet and that we experienced in February, Salfu Naluye came to their place with all the delegates and told me that these are all delegates, and so I'm going to win over 200, and surely he has done that. So let me move to the CSALA East Constituency. There are 2 candidates. Abbas Ridwan Dauda, he is the incumbent, and he got 172. 172. Chine Amidu Isaku, let me organize the name well. Amidu Chine Isaku, he got 233. 233. And so you have Ridwan Abbas Dauda, the incumbent, having 172, and he lost to Amidu Chine Isaku, Deputy Apostle Regional Minister, 233. And so it's an encore of what happened 5 years ago when the 2 presidents went against each other. It was a win for Ridwan Abbas Dauda. He was a newcomer. He was green. He was a political rookie. He was able to defeat the deputy minister, who was then a teacher, and then he was able to defeat him. So the tables have turned now today, and then Amidu Chine Isaku, he's now the victor, and then he won by that margin, and then Ridwan Abbas is now the vanquish.
All right, thank you very much, Rafiq Salam from WA, joining us with all the figures now when it comes to the CSALA constituency. So there you have it now. It looks like, yes, we've already talked about how the incumbents lost in that particular constituency. You're making a point about Yendi before. Yes, I had to go get Rafiq Salam. The fact that, yes, he's a young man, but also, you know, when you are a young man, you can actually galvanize the youth. You could bring a departure from it. But sometimes also, because as a people we respect old age, there's some older people who command lots of respect in the community. They're able to call you and say, come here. And, you know, I think this is your brother. I would want you to support him. I've seen that happening a lot in lots of elections. We've seen opinion leaders, you know, calling young people and telling them, oh, why are you going this way? Why don't you want to go this way? And the young ones would go this way. That doesn't take away the fact that you have people who on their own go into a community and automatically get the young ones joining them. And when it happens like that, the young ones would always support their own. They would make sure that, you know, there seems to be a trend also where the young people want to, you know, go into parliament. I'm picking information that in the Attrition constituency, for instance, you know, John Kuma won. He unseated the incumbent member of parliament. And so the young persons are making inroads into parliament. That's not bad. The most important thing is the ability to, you know, win subsequent elections and having people become career members of parliament, because it looks like we're gradually losing the institutional memory.
Agreed. And then I would say that in certain cases, maybe in the case of Farouk, for instance, what can also work for him is that it's his heritage. And it's his heritage that he has lived with. You remember we were talking about this disconnection thing and people thinking you are this. Sometimes it's from the beginning. If the foundation is not strong, and then you appear, you know, along the line somewhere once in a while, and then they get to know you. There's always this thing at the back of people's minds. If they didn't see you grow, when you are young and they didn't see you grow, you might end up not making a lot of inroads. You are young, they didn't see you grow. But when you are older, maybe you've been with them, you know, for a long time. So that also works in your favor. So that is what we consider. But the young people coming in is because they've been able to galvanize young people to vote. And a lot of the national ballot, don't forget, will also depend on a lot of young people's votes. So if you listen to your delegates and then you present them with a candidate that they feel is reflective of the way to gain the seat for the party would agree and go along with that kind of thinking. So that's some of the reasons for some of the young people unseating the older ones, because it's also a way to win.
This is definitely your election headquarters, and we're bringing you extensive coverage of the governing NPP's parliamentary primaries in constituencies where they have members of parliament. And so far, we've been sharing with you the results. Of course, we're also live on Joy 99.7 FM, also live on Love FM in Kumasi, and a dozen of affiliates across the country. So while we're talking about Kofi Adda's loss, someone actually sent a message that says that, well, there are lots of reasons why Kofi Adda actually lost, and that he had lost touch with his party faithful, had existing issues with his MCE and party chairman and other party executives. It played a key role in the election. So we're talking about, people losing, touch with their constituents, and it was, one of those. But let's look at some other results. So if you, we're going to be rolling them on our screens shortly, and I'll be sharing with you for those of you who are on radio and thus do not have the benefit of watching us. So if you go to Zebula, for instance, the incumbent member of parliament, that's Honorable Foseni, Honorable Adongo, he actually, won. He polled 323 votes. And John Kingsley Krugu, he polled 280. So this is a case of the incumbent winning. But he faces competition from the old horse, isn't it? You have the old horse coming back. That's Curtis Avoka. But let's share some other results with you. And so in the Tema West constituency, you have Carlos Kingsley Ahinkra polling 593 votes. Kweku Amkwesi Amuzwa polling 76, and then Kwesi Bosomping polling 177 votes. So that's it in the Tema West constituency. Let's get to Mampong now. Mampong in the Ashanti region, and Ben Arthur. So that's the Labour consultant you normally would hear on radio. Ben Arthur polled 206 votes. An incumbent member of Parliament, Kweku Amprechum Sapong, polled 295, and a former member of Parliament, Francis Adenimo, polling 136 in there. So Adenimo unsuccessful in his bid to get back to Parliament. The incumbent has actually, won that one. So that's the results from the Mampong constituency. All right, so that's the situation in the Mampong constituency. I think you have a few, thoughts about the Mampong constituency because, earlier, Francis Adenimo said he was being prevented from contesting that particular seat. Eventually, he petitioned, he was given a chance to contest, but then he lost. I mean, in his bid to come back to Parliament, and it would certainly remind us. Let me just remind our viewers and listeners that same constituency, Honorable Sarkodie, whom Francis Adenimo beat. Now, Sarkodie, after losing the election, he was just a one-term member of Parliament, tried 2 times to unseat Adenimo. He was unsuccessful in all of that. So it looks like for Mampong, if you go and lose, that's it for you.
It's possible, but it's also good that when you are a former member of Parliament, you get the opportunity to contest. And it was good that when the petition was successful and positive for him to also contest, because sometimes then you think that I wasn't allowed to contest and I would have beaten the incumbent. But in this case, we've just had the incumbent. When we've had Tema West, Carlos, that was also another tight, contest with his former campaign person competing against him. Carlos is also retained the seat. So we had 2 incumbents, coming through with decent results. But Mampong, certainly, Mr. Arthur's case makes a very interesting, because he's first showing. Yes. And it's 206, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad, even beating the other one who has been to Parliament.
Oh, yes, but
that's not bad. So it tells you that it was a very tight race. But then that would mean that what if the other member of Parliament, the former member, what if the member had not been successful in his bid to contest? Doesn't mean we'd have seen different results. We don't know. What we have is the current results, and congratulations to the incumbent for winning the Mampong seat again.
Indeed, congratulations to him for winning the Mampong seat. Let's get to Tema East and have results. Isabella Gitiglo is there with the Tema East results where Wetula Titus Glover won. Isabella, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening. So with Tema East, the incumbent MP, Titus Glover, won the seat again, won the primaries first time again. He won by 522, whilst Benjamin Ashby had 233 out of 767 delegates. Okay,
thank you very much, Isabella. But for that particular result, so another incumbent winning. But let me just tell you about Eddie Pizza, because they are refreshing us even as we bring you live coverage. Buy and get 1 free every day at Eddie's Pizza. That's at Hacho Branch only. It's also located at Agboba. That's Flowers opposite AAA LP Gas. Call them on 027-413-3397. Eddie's Pizza can't beat that. Of course, you can't beat that. So I've had mine, and I expect you to also have a bite of that. But let's get back to the Mampong constituency, and in the Mampong constituency, you've talked about Ben Arthur, in the first show.
For sure.
You could actually talk about a lot of other people who have been very visible in the media, and in their showings, they've won parliamentary elections. Not all of them, of course. We've seen persons who are very popular. They were heard all the time, in the media. But of course, they went for elections and were unsuccessful. But it's good that he's won he's lost, but he's made a very impressive showing. What it means is that if he continues like that, there's a chance of him eventually becoming member of parliament for Mampong. Yes, there's a chance. You know. If you show up and you do very well, there's every likelihood that you're going to win. Mind you, in the Shama constituency where Atopanford is lost now, I mean, Erickson Abaka, he contested. Angelina Bedingemisa, he lost. He contested against Atopanford, he lost. He comes again and he wins.
Third time lucky.
Yes, he comes again and he wins.
Lucky, yeah.
You know, so that's how the elections are sometimes. You go in there, once you have a good showing, once you don't pull the single digits and you're in the hundreds, then there's a clear indication that your people like you, and so you want.
No, but even if you pull a single digits, the lesson is taking what happened not as a defeat, but you take it as a way to go and re-strategize. And when you didn't do well, you work on it. And you also remember that you're working within the larger constituency and the larger party. So you have to wait and continue the work. But sometimes people go and then maybe if you get some very not too good numbers, then you are so disheartened, you probably don't do a lot for the party, you don't work at the grassroots anymore, which is where your ballot should be reflected. You know, that is where your ballot should be reflected.
So there are a number of women also contesting in the elections, and I know you are particularly interested in the females who are contesting in and some of them, sadly, are losing, others to making a good showing. One incumbent who's lost is Amase Mesise in the Akwatia constituency, Dr. Yakubu.
But I thought a woman won as well in Akwatia. Or
no, it's Ernest Kumi.
Who won?
Ernest Kumi.
Ernest Kumi won.
Yes, he won.
Oh, okay, so she lost. Well, I thought she was winning because earlier on in the day, during the day, I heard some kind of reports that I was thinking she was going to make. It's unfortunate because we know that there are up to 51 women who are contesting the elections. The women that are in the unopposed category are not a lot of them, you know. And so we were hoping that a lot of the women contesting, you know, will be retained. But I mean, that is not to say that just because, you know, of the gender they are going to retain them. But we know a lot of them were doing very good work at the constituency level. But what's also particularly interesting, it's in Accra, where we have Sheila Vatels, you know, are winning. So that's one of the new ones that we know are coming on board to come and work for Parliament. We don't know how she's going to perform at the national ballot, but so far today she won. And a lot of people were saying, oh, trying to remember who she was.
She's a woman, actually.
Yeah, I know. But then people were trying to say, oh, who was her father and who was it? I mean, now trying to find out her grassroots works in the constituency, and she was in touch with the delegates and people in the constituency at large, and she's been working very hard over the period. Yeah, she unseats a woman, but so have some other men unseat women, so have some women unseat men. I think it will be good for us to also start looking at the numbers of which of the women really got through and which of them, you know, didn't get through. I heard earlier on that Louise Carroll, Dr. Donko, did not make it in her constituency. That would have been one of the fantastic additions that we would have wanted to see how she performed, but it didn't happen as we were. So we're just going to now try and, you know, do some, mental gymnastics of who you know, unseated who, and then how many women we think are going to make it, depending on the numbers that the NPP itself reflects.
Okay, so let's get onto the phone now because Gerald Nyanyofio, whom I talked about earlier, who won at Ladade Kotopong, is joined us on the phone now. Gerald, congratulations on your victory in Ladade Kotopong.
Thank you, Wilson.
Great. So, Gerald, we've just spoken to Vincent Todotesoa, and he says that he certainly will be willing to work with you to win the seat again. But for you coming in and winning massively that way, tell us, what did the magic for you?
Well, I keep saying that the delegates silently nursed their pain, and today they have spoken loudly. I was able to connect with the delegates in a very deep way. I am a son of the soil. I connected with them. I've lived with them all this while to understand their concerns. And I was able to, you know, resonate with them at a point. And I'm not surprised at all at the massive endorsement they are giving today.
But I mean, being a son of the soil is one thing, working the strategy is another. So let's look at, you've talked about being a son of the soil. Is it an indication that, you know, your competitor had lost touch with the people or what?
That could be one reason. But largely, you know, politics is about relationships. You know, how well you're able to connect with people and how you're able to, you know, come to the grassroots and engage people. And so knowing their problem and how well you communicate your solution to them is another. So I was able to do that, and that was the magic for us.
Okay, that's nice. So now that you have won, you are getting ready for the elections. What do you intend to do to ensure that you are able to win the constituency a second time for your party?
Well, we are going to get all our stakeholders on board, including my senior brother, Vincent Odete. We have a collective responsibility to retain the seat for the party. And so it's not just Gerald who is going to bring that magic wand. It's going to be a collective responsibility for us to forge ahead as one united party and retain the seat.
Well, I like how you talk about senior and everything. Gerald Tete Nyanyofio, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations once again, and we'll meet on the flip side.
Thank you so much, sir.
Great. So that's Gerald Tete Nyanyofio, parliamentary candidate for the NPP in the Ladade-Kotopon constituency. But of course, we're still in the COVID era, and so it's important we share some tidbits with you. And we're doing some tidbits that's brought to you by Carex in collaboration with the Ghana Medical Association. Carex, now it kills 99% of bacteria. Say yes to life. Dole yogurt, more, I need more. A live soap. Soap can save your life. Use it. McDonald Shipping Company Limited, your total logistics partner. And Petrosol fuel in clean fuel in full quantity is always a delightful experience. All out life assurance. We've got you covered. So let me share the tips with you. Self-quarantine yourself. And when you feel sick, self-quarantine. If sick, call your doctor. If you have any symptoms, stay at home until you recover. Avoid sitting, sleeping, or eating with loved ones, even if you live in the same home. Wear a mask and wash your hands as much as possible. And if you need urgent medical care, wear a mask and let them know you may have COVID-19. But you know that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Of course, all play and no work will certainly make Jack a lazy boy. So you've been learning from home all this while on Ghana's first educational channel, Joy Learning. Now it is time to have fun and prove to other schools how beautiful your uniforms are. So follow Joy Learning on Instagram at joy_learning TV. Take a beautiful picture of yourself in your school uniforms from home. Post your picture and tag us at joy_learning TV, #uniform challenge. And with this perfectly done, you have the opportunity to win the bragging rights as the school with the most beautiful uniform in Ghana. Joy Learning, keep learning. But of course, even as we keep learning, it's important we talk about fathers, because tomorrow is Father's Day. And so, you know, talking about fathers, yes, I like that. So for the show that you've been in times of trouble, and for the love and affection that you've always portrayed, and for the stern yet essential admonishments you gave when we faltered, for pointing us in the right direction when we strayed, we say thank you, Dad. So pamper your dad, and I like this. Pamper your dad. With our special Father's Day package, and enjoy 1 month free subscription on Graphic News Plus app. And the rate is 250 Ghana cedis. Partners, Alisa Hotel, Silver Star, and ATL, and it's proudly brought to you by The Mirror, Ghana's most popular weekend paper, and Graphic Courier, so fast and so easy. I'll be getting to you shortly, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, but you know, on Sundays, the footballers meet at the park, and the Mutu guys would meet at their joints. Of course, you can even sit in COVID-19 time, just have to practice social distancing. And the church folks will share the grace, and friends and family would come to visit. But now, with MTN Sunday Special, your Sunday just got more special. For only 54 pesos, you can text and talk all day, every Sunday. So guess what? With 1 cedi, 9 pesos, you can talk the whole day and get a cool 20 megabytes of data. And this is where it gets even more exciting For 2 cedis, 17 pesos, you can call all other networks all day, plus free 50 megabytes of data. So, who is it that you love talking to? Is it your mom, dad, sister, brother, or that special person? Of course, tomorrow is Father's Day. We're calling a lot of people. So just keep talking all day, every Sunday, with the MTN Special Sunday. Send yes to MTN short code 5050, that's 5050, to sign up on MTN. That's why we're good together. We're there for you everywhere you go. But before Dr. Nansata Yakubu comes in, you know the world is dealing with a pandemic. And so it's important that the new normal is here. And while there's uncertainty and anxiety, there's hope in the knowledge and ability to be proactive at every turn of our lives, at work, at home, and in the community. So New Crystal Health Service, in partnership with Joy FM and Joynews, presents a thought leadership forum dubbed COVID-19 Safety at Work. And so join us for the COVID-19 Safety at Work on Monday, 22nd June from 10 a.m. And this event is brought to you by New Crystal Health Services Limited, with support from pharmacies and powered by Joy Thought Leadership. So we're looking at some of the constituencies, but you're talking about the female contestants. Finally, before we wrap up, we need to be making way for the next team. Gifty and Apia and the crew will be here shortly. Yes, Dr. Yakubu.
Yes, I was saying that we had 51 women contesting, and so far we've seen that some of the incumbent, like Honorable Barbara Isi, then the Honorable Minister for Gender actually also retains her seat. She's an incumbent, Agona West. Then we have new entrant, Sheila Bartels, and seated. Then we have Amasei Lucen. So I was saying that with the 51 women, it would be good by the end of today. We would have seen when all the results have been, certified by the EC, who really made it through, and how many women in total are going to are counted. But it's a critical mark. 51 is not. It's a decent number. We'd have wished for more, but that's what we have to now. And then we also have some of them in the unopposed, like Honorable Esla, who are not in this contest. And we have Honorable Safo, Ajal Safo, also retaining her seat. So it was interesting to see how they perform as incumbents, and then how they performed as new entrants. Yeah. All right,
thank you very much, Dr. Nansata Yakubu, a development consultant and democracy engineer, for joining us. We're very grateful to you. But of course, here's to the go-getter, the showstopper, the dreamer, the fighter, and the brother's keeper, the achiever, the entrepreneur, the hero, and the father. Join us for the 5th Emmy Africa Awards on Joy Prime and Joy News on Saturday, 4th July 2020 at 8 p.m. and live online via Emmy Africa YouTube and Facebook pages. Visit www.emmyafrica on all our social media handles for all the voting information. The 5th Emmy Africa Awards is in association with multimedia group, the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President of Ghana and UNFPA. The Emmy Awards Africa, inspiring greatness. Of course, we're also live on Joy Prime. My name is Winston Amwa. That'll be all from me, but of course the coverage continues because Gifty Andopia and the team take over from me. But of course, even as I leave, I bring you the declaration of Sylvester Tete as winner of the Botiano English Yaman from Constituency Primaries of the NPP.